Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if neglected Naruto hates his mother fairy tale. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Shinobi of Greed and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Star-Crossed Blondes. Iraq 773. Lowering herself gently against the bedside of her eldest child, reached out and rested her hand on her daughter's forehead. A frown covering the woman's face as she felt the heat of Altier's fever. Herself was no type of doctor or held any sort of medical insight, but regardless the woman could tell her daughter's condition was growing worse as the days went by. Of course tried taking her daughter to the nearest healer, who operated in the village down the mountain from where her family lived. However, Altier was quickly diagnosed with having too much magical power within a small body that couldn't handle it all. A condition that was told had no form of treatment or remedy. Yet as watched her only daughter shake and cough within an unconscious state, she tried to think that there was something she could do in order to save her daughter's life. "Mom." A voice called out in a hushed voice, which caused the woman to look over her shoulder. A rare smile gracing her lips at the sight of her youngest child Naruto, who was slowly walking into the bedroom with a large wooden bowl filled with water and a fresh washcloth on his shoulder. "I got this to help. Here my sweet boy. Let me take that." Mumbled as she maneuvered to take the bowl from Naruto's hands, feeling that the bowl was filled with very hot water. Looking up to his mother with a worried face, Naruto grabbed the washcloth off his shoulder and presented it to his mother. "I remember you getting this for Altier before to make her feel better." Could almost cry from not only how sweet her son was, but also how observant as well. A trait he obviously got from his father. However, considering Naruto was a practical clone of his father, that wasn't very surprising. It honestly got to her slightly that her son took after his father in everything from looks, personality and even the type of magic he preferred. Yet she couldn't complain all that much, as Altier was just like her in every type of way. Was mainly just thrilled by Naruto, despite being 6 years old and 3 years younger than Altier. Displayed none of the early signs of magical sickness that his sister did at his age, giving the woman a small sense of relief that her youngest would not face the same battles as his sister. "This is a very loving gesture, Naruto, but remember we are trying to lower your big sister's fever. So right now cold water would work better." Explained as her hands began to radiate a cold chill from her ice-based magic. Naruto watched his mother with a mesmerized gaze, while remembering in the future to bring cold water to help his sister. Yet Naruto was quickly brought out of his daze the moment he felt a strange tingle sweep through his senses. "Dad's back," the young boy declared softly, as he had a natural way of identifying people's arrival before showing themselves. Knowing her son was always right about these things, waited a second before hearing footsteps walking through their house. So taking a long sigh and handing the damp washcloth to Naruto, faked the best smile she could. "Naruto, could you place this on your sister and watch over her for a minute?" More instructed than asked as she motioned her son over to his elder sister. Nodding his head, Naruto took a seat onto Altier's bed and gently held the washcloth against his sister's forehead. Watching as his mother slowly walked away and shut the door to the bedroom, leaving the two siblings alone together. "Hey Altier, are you awake?" Naruto mumbled in a hushed voice, while waiting in silence for a reply. Yet after a few moments of silence Naruto hung his head. "I guess not, but when you get feeling better I've got a surprise for you." Naruto then moved his head to the door, ensuring no one was listening in on him. "I snuck into Dad's office again and started reading more of his magic books. I know I'm no good at ice make magic like you and Mom, but I'm really picking up on Dad's light magic." Hearing a loud slamming sound, Naruto slightly winced and kept his eyes on Altier's unconscious form. "Just don't tell Mom or Dad, okay? They both say I'm too young to start practicing any type of magic. I mean, you remember how much trouble I got into last time I was caught. No ramen for a month was awful." Shouting and other loud yelling going back and forth, Naruto took a slight pause. His ears tuned into the words being thrown around the best he could, but he couldn't make out much besides the volume of his parents' voices and their tones. "I'm sorry if they are too loud." Naruto began softly as he took the washcloth into the bowl to cool it down before reapplying it to Altier's head. "Dad's been gone more and more lately and he and Mom talk like this every time he gets back. Grown-up stuff, you know." Noticing the voices of his parents grow louder, Naruto closed his eyes. "I guess Dad's been doing something really important and Mom doesn't like it. She's more worried about you like I am. Still I know Dad is just as concerned about you as me and Mom are. So you gotta get better soon." "How fucking long are we going to hide here, Minato?" The voice of shouted throughout the house loud enough for Naruto to jerk his head towards the door. "I don't care how dangerous you say it is for us. Your only daughter is dying." Tears building in the corners of his eyes, Naruto balled his fist and clenched his jaw. Yet the weak touch on his shoulder instantly made him switch his attention to Altair, who was looking up at her little brother with a weak smile. "Why so glum? Did you get in trouble again, brat?" Altair asked before erupting into a coughing fit. "Altair? Do you need something? How can I help?" Naruto asked quickly, which made the older girl laugh. "You can start by taking this wet rag off me and not being so loud." Altair laughed through her coughing while pushing the washcloth away from her head. "But mom says this will help you." "That's sweet, but trust me, I'm fine without it," Altair replied as she pushed herself up into a sitting position. "So tell me, what has my baby brother been into? Have you been sneaking into dad's office again?" "No," Naruto declared quickly, which made Altair burst into laughter. "You're an awful liar, Naruto. But don't worry, I won't tell mom or dad. Just show me what you're learning already." Naruto nodded and held his hand out, then by furrowing his brow, he began to concentrate on the palm of his hand. Then slowly but surely a small ball of yellow light began to grow within Naruto's hands. "I've been reading dad's books on light magic and even rune magic. However, rune magic is still a little too hard for me." Watching the impressive display her brother was showing, Altair gave her brother a wide smile. "Well, you are doing great for someone teaching himself." Naruto perked up at the compliment and slightly lost his concentration, which caused the ball of light within his hand to rocket forward and straight through the wall of Altair's room, leaving a wide hole that both children gazed at with wide eyes. Then before either child could process what had happened, both their parents came barreling into the room. "Is everyone okay?" Minato yelled in concern as he tried to look around the room, but seeing Altair awake, instantly swarmed her children. "What are you doing up? You need your rest." Began before checking over her daughter's current condition. "I'm fine, mom." Altair tried to reason before coughing with enough force to leave her chest in pain. "You really are not." Replied before looking at Naruto. "And Naruto, I recognize light magic when I see it. What were you thinking? Have you been getting into your father's office again? You could have hurt someone or yourself." "Mom, don't be mad at Naruto. I made him show me his magic." Defended, which made the woman sigh. "That doesn't make it better." Replied softly as Minato slowly walked over to his family and placed a hand on his wife. "Why don't you take care of Altair?" Minato began as he glanced down at Naruto with a soft gaze. "I'll talk to Naruto about his magic." Nodded but gave her husband a look that sent the message that the two of them were not finished with their prior conversation. Minato understood that and quickly scooped Naruto up into his arms before walking out of the bedroom with his son. "I'm sorry," Naruto mumbled with a disheartened voice, while Minato sighed. "I know you are, but I'm just as sorry," Minato replied as he slowly approached the door to his office. Much to the surprise of Naruto, as the room was practically always off limits. "You're naturally curious about magic like I was at your age, but I haven't been around much to guide you." As Minato opened the door to the office, Naruto instantly took in the sights of his father's massive bookshelves that were packed with hundreds of different books. His eyes wandered to the dozens of picture frames and magical artifacts that were all trophies of Minato's past exploits as a wizard. All of which culminated in his father's status as one of the most powerful wizards within the country. A status that was recognized by his father's title of Wizard Saint. "Your mother knows just as well as I do the danger my type of magic can hold on someone. So since she can't properly instruct your growth, she is against you learning magic without having someone to oversee your training." Minato explained softly as he placed Naruto down onto the large leather chair at his massive desk, allowing Naruto a clear vision of everything that was placed on his father's desk. "Then how did you learn?" Naruto asked in confusion. Smiling softly and reaching out to a picture on his desk, Minato handed the frame to Naruto, allowing the boy to see a much younger version of his father standing at the doors of a large building with dozens of other people standing around him. "You see that short man right there?" Minato asked with a wide smile, while Naruto nodded his head. "That was my teacher and guild master. His name is Makarov. That guy there was my best friend Gildert's, and that jerk right there was the master's son Ivan." "Hey, there's mom." Naruto chimed in as he recognized the woman instantly. "She was actually the only person in that picture not a member of our guild." Minato explained softly as he began to reflect back to the past. "She was actually a member of the all-female guild Mermaid Heel, but everyone else was a part of my guild Fairy Tail." Naruto's eyes lit up as he had never heard anything of his father's guild days. What was it like being in a guild? Minato gave his son an honest grin. "It was the best. I miss my guild family every single day." Naruto looked at his father with a look of pure excitement. "You think I could join a guild one day?" "Perhaps one day, but in the meantime I'm going to promise to be around more often to properly teach you magic." Minato revealed much to Naruto's utter joy and shock. "Really?" Naruto asked as he was bouncing with excitement. Minato nodded. "Really, but you're going to follow my rules when it comes to magic. No more sneaking into my office or doing unsupervised magic around your sister." Of course. Naruto replied without even needing to think. Well, in that case we will start first thing in the morning. Minato revealed with a smile as he ruffled Naruto's spiky hair. I'll make the next yellow flash out of you yet. Iraq 774. A year has gone by since Minato had promised to train Naruto to be a proper wizard. Yet the previous year had come with its own troubles that the Namikaze family wasn't prepared for. It all started with Altair's worsening condition, which caused her to seek help from the Bureau of Magical Development. This of course was a decision that led to the untimely death of Altair without even as much as a body to bury. A loss that left a major blow to the Namikaze family as Minato began to be gone much more frequently while had slightly shut herself away in her grief. Leaving Naruto completely alone to process the loss of his dear older sister at such a young age. Yet things eventually changed when had somehow managed to take in two students Lion and Gray. Teaching both boys how to utilize ice make magic, which was something that seemed to slightly take the mother away from her grief and give Naruto a pair of older brother figures to help him as well. However, neither boy held a candle to the void that Altair's death left with Naruto. Still Naruto tried to move forward and focus on his training in both light and rune magic. Going as far to train more in secret by himself when his father wasn't around. Doing everything he could to get strong enough to protect himself and those close to him. Thinking in his childish head that if he was strong enough he could avoid losing people like he did his older sister. Yet this childish mindset eventually resulted in another incident where Naruto had accidentally lost control of his magic and nearly killed Lion, who was unfortunate enough to be near the young boy's line of fire. Regardless, Lion had survived the blow but did hold some resentment towards Naruto for the accident. However, when Minato returned and learned of what had happened, he decided to take Naruto with him for a small time. A decision that Naruto remembered wasn't a pleasant discussion between his parents. Yet eventually his mother agreed that Naruto accompanying Minato on his next trip would be beneficial for Naruto's training and would give some time for the tension between Naruto and Lion to calm down. At first, Naruto was ecstatic to not only spend time with his father and train, but even more so travel away from his home and see more of the outside world. Unfortunately, Naruto was slightly disappointed after 3 weeks of traveling with his father as they spent most of their time staying hidden and doing all they can to keep a low profile. Naruto really didn't understand why his father was going so far out of his way to make sure nobody noticed either of them. Still, he was at least happy to see more of his father and get more opportunities to practice his magic. Yet today was different from the previous weeks as Naruto and his father had actually made their way into a decently large town. Naruto himself didn't know where they actually were or why his father suddenly decided to bring him into a place filled with people after spending so many weeks avoiding any human interaction. Still, he was just happy to see a new sight and get new experiences but was limited to what he could actually do. Considering he had to stay close to his father and keep the hooded cloak he was wearing up to conceal himself just like Minato was. However, as Naruto walked by his father's side, the young boy noticed Minato was leading him in the direction of a tavern. Which was a rather large building with dozens of people going both in and out, while a large sign in the shape of a toad hung over the entrance. Naruto, slowly walking under the sign, took note that the name of the tavern was the Gallant Toad. Minato, bending down at the entranceway, made sure to lock eyes with his son. Stay close to me once we are inside and don't talk to anyone strange. Naruto, hearing the severity behind his father's words along with the look behind his eyes, merely nodded. Okay, Dad. Satisfied with his son's reply, Minato stood to his feet and walked into the tavern with Naruto following close behind. Allowing the younger of the two vision of the inside portion of the tavern and getting a grasp on just how busy the place truly was. Since if Naruto was just to blink and take the wrong step, he could easily find himself separated and lost from his father. Minato, on the other hand, maneuvered through the tavern like someone who had obviously been a prior patron. Leading Naruto to the back of the tavern before coming to a rather large man who was standing as the watchful guard over a mysterious door. I'm here to see the sage. Minato explained before he produced a coin into his hand from a requip space to show the man. The man merely nodded without saying a word and stepped aside. Allowing Minato and Naruto both clear passage through, while Minato merely returned the coin back into his requip space in a shimmer of light. Then as the father and son duo passed through the door, they were greeted with the sight of a single man seated behind a large desk. The man, seeing both Naruto and Minato, smiled wide while standing upright and walking around his desk to greet his guests. Minato, I was wondering when you'd show up. And I take it this is little Naruto. Minato, shutting the door behind him, triggered a chain reaction of runes to pulse through the room. Runes that instantly snuffed out any noise from the outside to be heard. Yes. Naruto watched the man smile and look at him, noticing he was a tall and well-built man with fair skin. Who had waist-length spiky white hair that was tied back into a ponytail, with 2 shoulder-length bangs framing his face. Upon his face were 2 lines of what Naruto assumed to be red face paint that started under his eyes and extended down his face. His attire consisted of a green short shirt kimono and matching pants, under which he wore mesh armor that was visible at his wrists and ankles. Along with hand guards, a black belt and a pair of traditional wooden sandals. With the highlight of his outfit being the red haori with 2 yellow circles on each side. "Well, it's nice to see you, kid. Last time we saw each other you were just born." The man declared with a large smirk before pointing to himself. "I'm sure you're thrilled to finally meet the man you've obviously heard so much about." Naruto, remembering that he has agreed to not speak to strangers, shifted his gaze upwards to his father with a questioning gaze. "Who is this, Dad?" Hearing Naruto's question, the man fell flat onto his face with a rather defeated look. Minato, seeing this reaction, merely laughed nervously and lowered his hood. "Naruto, this man is another one of my teachers, like Makarov, this man is Jiraiya." With tears rolling down his face, Jiraiya looked up at Minato. "Wait, you told him about Maki, but not me. How could you, Minato?" "Well, you've never come up in conversation before." Minato tried to defend himself with an awkward laugh. Naruto on the other hand lowered his hood like his father and took a bow. "It's a pleasure to meet one of my dad's teachers." Jiraiya quickly composed himself and merely laughed before standing upright once more. "Well, I can see your son has some manners. Here I thought he would be a spitfire like his mother, how's her? She's been better considering recent events, but has taken 2 students." Minato explained softly, while Jiraiya nodded. "Well, if your timing was slightly better you would have seen that brat Gildert's." Jiraiya grumbled in a bitter voice, while Naruto's mind clicked. Remembering said person was a member of the guild his father used to be a part of. Gildert's was here? And the building isn't in shambles or repair. How is that possible? Minato asked, which made Jiraiya smirk and rub the bridge of his nose. "I'll have you know silence runes aren't the only precautions I have set in place. After a few incidents I placed some runes that disables Gildert's magic the moment he steps anywhere near my tavern." Jiraiya explained with a sense of pride behind his words. "That's actually fairly smart. I'm surprised Makarov didn't think of something like that for the guild." Minato replied. "Well, considering the only people with rune magic strong enough to deal with that brat is you and me is probably why he hasn't." Minato nodded and folded his arms. "Well, I take it Gildert's came to you for the same reason I have." Jiraiya nodded and took a short sigh. "Always getting to the point, but yes. I've been gathering some information for Gildert's 100-year quest. Much like I've been doing for your very own quest. I mean seriously, between looking for dragons or for ancient relics linked to powerful beasts, more fierce than a dragon. Can't you two have picked a safer quest or teamed up instead of taking your own individual 100 quests?" Minato rubbed the back of his head and lowered his gaze. "What can I say, Jiraiya? Our decisions were made by young foolish wizards. Ones who had grown into men who have got themselves pulled too far in to just back out." Jiraiya merely nodded in agreement as he walked over to a large painting of what Naruto recognized as the Fairy Tail Guild Hall. Then as his hands glided over the bottom edge of the painting, a clicking noise went off before the painting swung open to reveal a hidden safe. Jiraiya then placed his hand onto the safe and disabled the security runes before unlocking the safe. "All the same, Minato, I'm afraid I don't have a lot of information for you." Jiraiya began as he pulled a sealed scroll from the safe. 100-year quests are notoriously impossible tasks for a reason. Taking the scroll in hand, Minato quickly sent the information into his requip space for later. "Still, I appreciate this help. Things have been difficult as of late." Understanding the meaning that stretched past the surface level, Jiraiya gave his former student a somber expression. "I'm sorry for what happened to Altair. I wish there was something I could have done for her, but I could never find anything." Minato stayed silent, as the loss of his oldest child was the biggest failure of his lifetime. Yet Naruto was surprised to learn that Jiraiya had been helping search for a cure for his late sister. A small detail that made Naruto respect the man just a little more. "There is no need to apologize," Minato replied before taking a pause to hold his emotions in check. "The failure to save Altair rests completely on my shoulders." Jiraiya sighed. "Because that's a healthy burden to carry, but still, let's move to something else. I have a warning for you and your family." Minato lifted his brow. "What have you heard?" "I know you moved your family out of Fiori and have been living in hiding inside the land of Izvan." Jiraiya began while Naruto was confused at the man's words. Not knowing he and his family were in hiding and wondered just what they were hiding from. "I've gotten some reports of the demon known as Deliora running a rampage through the kingdom. Apparently no S-class requests have been issued due to the lack of wizards within Izvan. However, the demon was sighted heading near Brago. If I remember correctly, that's not far from where you're currently living. It's very close to our home." Minato began before looking at Naruto directly, making sure his son heard what he was about to say. "However, our house is quite isolated and I've set enough runes to keep out an army." Sora along with her 2 students are perfectly safe until we return. Jiraiya nodded as he would have known Minato would have set precautions in place. He would have done the same in his situation after all. That's good to hear. Any chance upon your return you'll hunt and slay Deliora? It could save a lot of lives. I'll see what I can do. Minato replied softly while resting a hand on Naruto's shoulders. He knew his son was slightly worried for her and knew he needed to lighten the mood and bolster his confidence in her safety. I might just send little Naruto here to fight the demon. He's growing quite adept with my light magic after all. That's quite remarkable. Jiraiya praised with a grin. That's not a magic that's easy to master. Any chance you'll have Naruto join a guild one day? I'm sure Makarov would be delighted to have little Naruto in his guild. Maybe one day. Minato replied as he saw the gleam in Naruto's eyes. When the time is right. For now though, let's get ready to head back home. I'm sure your mother has been missing you. 1 month later. It has been a month since Naruto had met Jiraiya and exactly 1 week since he had discovered his mother was dead. From what Minato had learned, his wife had used the forbidden spell Iced Shell in order to sacrifice her own body to in turn seal the demon Deliora in a casing of eternal ice. This was a last-ditch effort by her to save one of her students, Grey Fullbuster, who had challenged the demon in an attempt to avenge his family but was severely outmatched. The fallout of this situation left Grey and his fellow student Lion heading their separate ways on rather sour terms, while Minato had to figure out how to gather the pieces of his demolished family and what to do moving forward. Minato knew he couldn't take Naruto with him full-time as his quest was far too dangerous. He also knew he couldn't just leave his 7-year-old son alone to fend for himself. Minato was also fully aware that Jiraiya didn't have the time to properly provide for Naruto in a safe environment. The idea of taking Naruto to Fairy Tail did dance around his mind as he knew Makarov would take excellent care of Naruto. Yet that would put Naruto in the public light and in turn place Naruto in danger. So again his options were very limited, which was why Minato was currently standing with his son outside of a large estate. This was his last-ditch effort to preserve and protect what little family he had left. Dad. Naruto began, his voice hollow and broken, which highlighted on full display the trauma his son was still going through. Where are we? An old and dear family friend lives here. Minato explained softly as he bit his bottom lip. Frustrated at his own foolish actions and ambitions that had placed him down this path. You're going to stay here for the foreseeable future. Okay. Naruto droned out, his voice completely void of the energetic child he once was. Minato closed his eyes as he hated seeing Naruto like this and he hated even more the actions he was forced to take. So gliding around and kneeling in front of Naruto, Minato placed a hand on his son's shoulder. I'm sorry I have to do this, Naruto, but you'll be safe here. I know, Dad. Naruto replied as he felt a small lump in his throat. Just promise you'll be safe. A tear leaking from the corner of his eye, Minato brought his son into a strong hug. I promise I'll fix everything, Naruto, just hold on for me. Don't ever give up. Feeling his father's embrace, Naruto merely stayed still and silent, which caused Minato to pull back and pat his son on the shoulder. Come on. Let me go introduce you to your godmother. Naruto's interest peaked at his father's words and followed the man down a large gravel path. His eyes scanning the wide and well-kept landscape filled with beautiful exotic flowers and large hedge sculptures. This, coupled with a massive looming mansion in the distance, made Naruto wonder who his father was leaving him with. Whoever they were, Naruto could at least identify they were fairly well off, as the estate made his home look like a shack. Yet in comparison, a small house in a frozen tundra didn't really compare to a large estate filled with large meadows and breathtaking mountain views. Upon arriving at the massive double doors to the mansion, Minato merely knocked and waited in silence for someone to answer. Yet the father and son duo did not wait long, as almost instantly a man within a butler uniform answered the door. Greetings, what can I do for you, gentlemen? I'm here to see Layla. Minato explained in a matter-of-fact tone. I sent a letter in advance. She should be expecting us. Ah yes, please follow me. The young mistress is out back with little Lucy. Minato nodded and followed the butler, along with Naruto, who simply looked around the extravagant mansion with wide eyes. Since never in his life had he seen a house with such a beautiful and massive interior. However, upon arriving at the back of the mansion, Naruto saw a woman with blonde hair sitting at an eloquent outdoor tea table. She was a beautiful young woman with soft brown eyes, along with long blonde hair, which she wore in a bun, along with a lacy baby pink band with ruffles on its edges, which rested on her hair with her flicks and strands of hair framing her face. The woman had a rather voluptuous figure and was accompanied by a young girl who was almost the spitting image of her. Minato. The woman called out with joy behind her voice as she quickly stood up and made her way to greet her old friend. Layla. Minato replied softly as he was quickly hugged by the bombshell blonde. It's good to see you. It's been too long. Absolutely. Layla began as she shifted her eyes to Naruto. And you must be little Naruto. You look exactly like your father when he was your age." Naruto blushed nervously at the beautiful and outgoing woman, while Minato merely laughed. "You're one to talk, Layla, little Lucy is practically your clone." "I couldn't agree more." Layla spoke with pride behind her voice while pointing to her daughter. "Naruto, why don't you introduce yourself to Lucy? Me and your father need to talk about a few things." Naruto nodded and walked over to Lucy, which left the two adults alone. Something which caused their voices to drop to a whisper as Layla was the first to speak. "Minato, what the hell is going on? You haven't spoken to me in over 8 years and out of nowhere you send a letter saying and Ultier are both dead and you need me to raise your son." Minato looked down with a defeated look. "I'm sorry. I didn't plan for things to happen this way. Please don't make me beg for your help." Layla huffed in annoyance. "Don't insult me by thinking I wouldn't take Naruto in, but I can only provide for him. If there is some danger I can't protect him, I gave all 3 of my gate keys away to former servants of mine to hold until Lucy comes of age to take them. I don't expect protection, Layla, just love him. He's been through too much as is. I've done everything to ensure no one knows about Naruto, let alone where he would be." "You've really gotten yourself into a mess, haven't you?" Minato nodded. "Like you wouldn't believe." Over with Naruto. The young Namikaze came face to face with the daughter of his supposed godmother. A girl around his age with a beauty Naruto couldn't place into words. "Hello, you must be Naruto. Mom said you would be living with us. I'm Lucy." Naruto was caught off guard by the girl standing before him with her hand out and a smile on her face. Everything about her was perfect and her voice was practically angelic. For a week Naruto had gone through the motions with a heavy darkness smothering him in his own depression. Yet just the tone of Lucy's voice and her warm smile was like a ray of sunshine blasting against his face. It's nice to meet you." Naruto replied back nervously as he reached out and shook her hand. Feeling a jolt shoot through his body the moment both blondes came into contact, which made them both break contact almost instantly and blush. "I hope we can be friends." Lucy began as saw her mother turning to face her. "I don't have any friends my age." Naruto was about to respond, but the sound of footsteps made both children see their parents approach. Layla was the first to voice herself as she gave a smile identical to Lucy's. "I'm glad you two are getting along, but come with me, Lucy. Naruto has to talk with his father before he departs." Lucy nodded and walked to her mother's side while Minato went over to Naruto, giving his last child a small hug. "I'm sorry to leave so soon, Naruto, but you'll be safe here with Layla." Minato began before in a shimmer of light a pile of books appeared out of his requip space. "I want you to read these books. They are everything you'll need to know about light magic and rune magic, so study them well and ask Layla for help. She's pretty brilliant." "Okay, Dad, but when will I see you again?" Frowning and kissing the top of his son's head, Minato lied through his teeth. "Soon, I promise. Until then stay here. Listen to Layla, read these books and only practice your magic where it's safe." Naruto nodded. "Okay, Dad, I can do that." Iraq 775. A year has gone by since Naruto joined the Heartfilia household. In that time Naruto had acclimated into the estate in almost every way possible. The servants adored him and Layla was like a second mother to him. Showering Naruto with love that slowly pulled him out of his own misery, but not a single person helped Naruto more than Lucy. Since within the last year the two became inseparable and were always with one another. In fact, some servants and even Layla began to tease the duo about being a couple. Something that embarrassed both children every time it was brought up in a conversation. Of course, there was one person that Naruto didn't get along with, as Lucy's father was someone who Naruto despised. Since Naruto wasn't a fan of how the man was business first and family second. To someone like Naruto who had lost a majority of his family, he saw Jude as a money-hungry asshole. Of course, the hatred was mutual, as Jude saw Naruto as nothing more than a nuisance and hated Naruto simply for who his father was. All in all, the past year was good. Except for the small fact that Naruto hasn't seen or even heard from his father in well over a year. A harsh fact that left Naruto's head swimming with possible scenarios of what could have happened to his father. Still, he knew his father pushed for him to never give up and study and practice his magic, which was what Naruto spent the majority of his time doing. Today was no exception to that, as Naruto was nose deep within one of his father's books. Meanwhile, his free hand danced around the air as he practiced writing different runes from memory. "Naruto!" Lucy shouted from across the mansion, which did earn the young blonde's attention. So as he removed his eyes from the pages before him, Naruto glanced down the hallway to find Lucy running to him with her left arm waving back and forth. "You've got mail." His cerulean eyes went wide as he noticed the rectangular envelope within Lucy's hands, which of course made Naruto dash immediately to his closest friend. "Is it from my father?" "I don't know, it just arrived and was addressed to you." Lucy explained as she eagerly gave the letter over. Naruto, wasting no time, ripped into the letter and started to read. Dear Naruto. I'm writing to you with some troubling news. For the last few months your father has practically vanished off the face of the planet. I've tried every outlet I could think of but haven't been able to locate him. However, he did mention you would be living with Lale and I'm sure you're worried about your father. I'm sorry kid, but I wanted you to at least know he's seemingly missing. I'll keep looking for him and use as much of my resources to find him. Until then I will keep in regular contact with you. Please stay safe and if you need me don't be afraid to reach out. Sincerely, Jiraiya. Naruto glanced over the letter several times while the pit within his stomach only grew larger and larger. There was a return address for Naruto to write back to Jiraiya, but Naruto was currently a sea of emotions. Fearing something horrible had happened to his father and he had lost the last member of his family. Lucy, noticing the visible pain behind Naruto's eyes, frowned as she hadn't seen her fellow blonde this upset since their very first meeting. Naruto, what's wrong? Twitching at the question, Naruto looked up at Lucy. He was an abysmal liar and especially struggled to lie when it came to her. However, this was a topic he didn't want to discuss as talking about it made it even more real. Besides, burdening her with his problems wasn't something he wanted. Lucy was a bright and cheerful girl but was also very empathetic. So he didn't want his woes to weigh on her as well. So for now he knew lying wouldn't work and she wouldn't drop her questions. He knew her better than that. So for now half-truth had to do. It's just a letter from an old family friend. Saying he wanted to keep in contact with me. Naruto explained as he rather quickly tucked the letter into his pocket. I should write back to him as I haven't spoken with him much. Maybe you could help me write a formal reply sometime. Of course. I'd love to help you Naruto. Lucy chimed with joy, which did slightly lift Naruto's spirits. Maybe we can write something after lunch. I had the cooks make your favorite ramen. Naruto grinned ear to ear and joined Lucy's side. Thanks Lucy, you're always so thoughtful. Blushing bright red, Lucy swayed back and forth before nudging into her favorite person. It's the least I can do. You always do so much for me. Naruto laughed and shook his head. You're crazy if you think I do more for you than you do me. Lucy giggled innocently. Then just call me crazy. Naruto smirked and bumped into Lucy as softly as he could. If you say so Lunasai. Blushing at the small play on her name, Lucy crossed her arms and gave Naruto a small but fake glare. That's not what I meant. Giving a sly grin and chuckling under his breath, Naruto didn't back down. All the same I think it's gonna stick lunacy. Iraq 777. It has been 3 years to the day since Naruto had begun living with Lucy and her family. 3 long years since Naruto had not heard even a whisper about his father or what could have happened to him. Naruto had stayed in constant contact with Jiraiya who had still found nothing about his father. A few times Naruto would try to question the man about his father's 100-year quest, but every time Jiraiya would deny him any information. Saying he would focus on finding Minato and that the 100-year quest was far too dangerous for Naruto. Reiterating many times over that he would not lead Naruto down the same road that claimed his father. Naruto was obviously annoyed by this, but chose to use Jiraiya's warning of danger as a motivation. Driving him to spend every waking moment improving as a wizard and growing his magic, as eventually he planned to head out and find his father for himself. Telling himself that if Jiraiya wouldn't let him be involved with information around his father's disappearance, he would find the truth for himself. Naruto didn't know yet how he would do it or better yet when he would venture out. Since he desperately needed actual experience. So the idea of joining a wizard's guild did come to mind. However, leaving Lucy and Layla behind was a painful thought as he adored both mother and daughter with his whole heart. So the idea of leaving them behind wasn't a pleasant one. However, Naruto was soon going to learn that the year of X777 was going to be anything besides pleasant. Chapter end. Chapter 2. Like father, like son. Year X777 Naruto and Lucy age 10. Happy birthday Lucy. Came the culminating cries of Layla and the entirety of the Hertfilia family's servants. All of whom were gathered around Lucy at a rather large cake, while a mound of presents could be seen behind the young birthday girl. Naruto himself simply smiled and clapped his hands from the side of the room, as today had been a rather fast build-up of stress for Naruto. Considering for the last several weeks he had been scrounging around to finish his gift to Lucy, which he had only managed to finish at the very last second. Still he had managed to get the gift finished and he was present for the party, which was more Naruto could say for Jude. Considering the man was working on his own daughter's birthday. Naruto could tell this slightly hurt Lucy as she was glancing around the room with a rather disheartened face. Yet the look of pain that filled her soft features rapidly shifted into a smile the moment her deep chocolate eyes met his crystal blue. A brief exchange that caused Naruto to smirk and wave at Lucy. The latter of whom was practically begging in silence for her friend to join her side. So since Naruto wasn't one to disappoint Lucy on any occasion let alone her birthday. He quickly moved across the party room to join Lucy's side. Happy birthday Lunacy. Naruto began in a hushed voice that earned a blush from Lucy, who playfully swatted at Naruto in response to her nickname. Don't call me that on my birthday. Naruto simply chuckled and placed his right hand over his heart before giving a bow. How sorry I am to offend the princess on her special day. Turning red as a tomato in embarrassment, Lucy was about to respond. Unfortunately her mother beat her to the punch. You two are so adorable. Tell me Naruto, are you going to propose to Lucy as her birthday gift? Mom? Lucy hissed in absolute dread as she believed her crush on her fellow blonde was a secret shared between mother and daughter. Yet that couldn't be further from the truth as anyone with eyes could notice her fondness of Naruto. Well, anyone besides the blonde in question. Naruto on the other hand took notice of Layla's voice and body language as she sounded weak. Almost as if she was coming down with some sort of illness. In fact the color of her skin seemed a little paler than usual and she appeared somewhat shaky on her feet. Oh, I'm being scattered-brained, aren't I? Naruto is too sensible to propose at such a young age. He probably got you a promise ring. Mom? Lucy cried again from embarrassment. Please stop, Naruto isn't getting me any jewelry. Actually. Naruto cringed in response as his attention drifted from Layla to Lucy. A small rectangular orange box shimmering into his hands from a requip space, which he in turn presented to Lucy. A surprise. Taken back in surprise, Lucy accepted the gift. Meanwhile Layla watched the small gesture with both hands clasped over her heart in joy. You didn't have to. Lucy began, but Naruto was quick to cut her off. No, trust me. I did. Eager to see what was within the box, Lucy lifted the top to reveal a necklace. Yet this necklace in particular was a small green gemstone with 2 metal balls on each side, keeping it fastened in place on a leather lace. It's beautiful. Lucy gasped in disbelief as she lifted the necklace up, which caused several tiny runes to glow in response to her touch. I made it myself. Naruto began as he pointed to the runes on the gemstone. Those are special runes I inscribed with my magic that not only let me know where you are, but let me talk to you whenever and wherever you are. How? But this of course. Naruto replied as he pulled a necklace that was identical to Lucy's from under his shirt. Then by channeling his magic into the necklace, Naruto slightly smirked. What do you think? Hearing Naruto's voice not only through his lips but the necklace itself. Lucy could only give her best friend a look of amazement. Naruto, this is the best gift ever. I'd agree it's quite thoughtful and ingenious. Layla commented with a smile. You're definitely Minato's son. Thank you Naruto. I love it. Can you help me put it on? Grinning ear to ear, Naruto maneuvered around Lucy and began to slowly place the necklace around her neck. Of course, anything for you Lucy. Layla's heart was full of love and happiness as she was overjoyed to see just how close her daughter was to the son of her oldest friend. It wasn't a simple friendship or some distorted sibling relationship due to how they were raised. More so it was the slight budding of a love that Layla wanted to see blossom into a full romance when both were of age and ready. A true dream that seemed more and more like an inevitable future as the days went by. Yet as Layla's vision started to blur and her balance went off. A cruel truth was slowly starting to make itself known. That being the fact that she wouldn't be around much longer to see that future take shape. Mom? Lucy mumbled as she looked at her mom with concern. Layla herself could only hear distorted voices as her eyelids slowly grew heavy. Cursing herself for the action she had taken to leave her like this. Yet at least Lucy wouldn't be in her place. Layla? Naruto mumbled from behind Lucy as he subconsciously held tightly onto her shoulders for support. Are you okay? I'm Layla mumbled before collapsing hard onto the floor, which caused numerous cries of concern. Mom Layla. Both Naruto and Lucy cried together as Naruto acted before anyone else by dashing to Layla's side and lifting her body close to his chest. His eyes grew wide as he felt how hot Layla's body temperature was against his hands. Along with how weak her breathing was as her chest seemed to have difficulties expanding, which showed Naruto how weak her lungs were at the moment. However, the worst of it all was the pain-filled expression that covered her face, as it was something he was all too familiar with. A sight that left Naruto thinking only one thing in absolute horror. No. Not again. Please not someone else. Mom? Lucy cried as she crashed onto her knees by Naruto's side. Naruto, seeing the tears pouring out of Lucy's eyes, felt like he was stabbed through the chest. He himself was no stranger to loss, and if it wasn't for Lucy and Layla he would have given up long ago. So right now Naruto wanted to be there for Lucy, but as he held onto Layla in his arms. He couldn't be strong. He couldn't be the pillar for Lucy that she had been for him. After all, he loved Layla like a mother as well. So in this moment of desperation, Naruto did the only thing he could do. The same thing he did when he heard the news of the passing of his sister and mother. He wept. A few weeks later. The last few weeks had been hell on earth within the Heartfilia household. After the incident on Lucy's birthday, it was revealed that Layla was terminally sick as she had developed a condition that no modern medicine or magic could remedy. Naruto himself wondered what force he had provoked to once again be placed at the bedside of a dying loved one. In his opinion, it wasn't fair, especially to Lucy, who had practically shut herself within her room and cried when she learned of her mother's limited time left. Naruto, on the other hand, was somewhat used to this predicament, and even though it didn't lessen the pain in his heart, he could at least be at Layla's bedside, doing his absolute best to make the women's final days as pleasant as he possibly could. Still, as he slowly dabbed a wet rag against Layla's forehead, Naruto had to fight and kill every urge he had to cry. "Naruto, that's enough. It's a kind gesture, but we both know it's not doing any good." Naruto took a hard swallow and placed the rag into the bowl on Layla's nightstand. "I'm sorry." Layla let out a weak laugh followed by a cough. "Don't apologize, sweet child. Your company is more than enough. I wish there was more I could do. And I wish I could see you and Lucy grow up, but life doesn't always let us have what we want." Naruto frowned at the woman's words and tightened his fists over his lap. It shouldn't have to be that way. Reaching out and resting her hand over Naruto's own, Layla gave her godson a small smile. "All the same, nothing can be changed. I made my choice to protect Lucy and your futures, but make me a promise while you still can." "Anything?" "When I'm gone, protect Lucy and continue to love her more and more every day." Layla began as she locked eyes with Naruto, trying her hardest to fight back the pain. "I know it's a selfish request because I know you're hurt as well, but ease my mind. Promise me that when I'm gone you'll fill the void in her heart with as much love as you possibly can." Fighting back the tears within his eyes, Naruto quickly nodded in response. "I'll do everything in my power to protect her and make her happy. I promise until the day I die I won't stop doing so. And no matter what you may say, you have my full blessing to marry Lucy." Actually scratch that. I'm demanding you marry Lucy when you two get of age. That's not negotiable." Naruto was at a loss for words, but before he could even open his mouth to respond, the door to the room opened, revealing a woman around Layla's age with long green hair tied back into a ponytail. She was dressed rather poorly and carried herself in a very reserved posture. Yet the most striking observation Naruto noticed was the golden key within her hands. "Grammy?" Layla called out with care and a soft smile. "It's so wonderful to see you." Rushing to Layla's bedside, Grammy practically forced a golden key into the dying woman's hand. "I'm so sorry, Layla. This is all my fault. I brought Aquarius back, but I was too late." Placing the key onto her nightstand, Layla smiled softly. "It's fine, Grammy, you're not at fault. I didn't have to make the choice I did, but I don't regret doing so. Oh, and where are my manners? This is my godson and future son-in-law Naruto Namikaze. Naruto, this is a dear friend of mine who I had hold on to Aquarius's key for me." Grammy gave Naruto a small nod, while the youngest within the room was confused as to what Layla was talking about. Since Grammy almost seemed to take accountability for Layla's condition. "If only I could have made it here sooner, but me and my daughter live so far away." "It's fine, Grammy, how is your daughter doing? She should be the same age as my Lucy. Perhaps you could introduce the two so they could become friends like the two of us." "But I'm just a servant." "Nonsense, you're my friend and never think differently." Naruto stood in silence and watched as Grammy began to sob, while Layla simply gave the woman comfort. This continued for a couple minutes before they went into a slight small talk. Yet their talks gave Naruto little insight as to what was going on. "I wish there was something I could do, Layla." Grammy began with regret filling her voice. "I told you it's fine, Grammy. I might not have long, but I won't leave any regrets behind. You should head back to your daughter, I'll have Naruto escort you to the train station." Layla explained as she gave Naruto a rather stern look. "He and I both know he needs to get some fresh air and away from my bedside." "But what if you need something?" Layla kept her gaze sharp as she lifted her brow. "I do need something, and that's for you to make sure Grammy is escorted safely." Naruto sighed and nodded his head. "You can count on me, but I won't be long." Layla seemed pleased with the response and said her goodbyes to Grammy. Then, with both women giving each other one final hug, Naruto escorted Grammy out of the mansion and down the massive winding path of the estate, staying close to the former servant while both stayed completely silent. Naruto himself had forgotten how long of a walk it was from the estate to their private train stop, as he hadn't left the Hertfilia estate since his father had left him here. "So you're betrothed to the young lady?" Grammy began, which caused Naruto to twitch. "Not exactly, but Layla definitely makes it sound like we are." Naruto replied with a large blush, as he didn't hate the idea. Yet it was still embarrassing for others to ask if he was marrying his best friend. "Me and Lucy are just very close." Layla is very persistent. "Tell me, your last name Namikaze. Your father wouldn't be Minato, would he?" Naruto glanced over to Grammy. "He is. How did you know?" "Well, besides your last name. You're identical to him in every way." I remember your father visiting Layla a few times. Master Jude despised every second of his visits as he was always jealous of your father. Personally, I thought he feared the idea of your father stealing Layla away from him. Layla never really talks much about her past with my dad. Usually when I bring it up she compares me to him in some way and changes the subject. Well, if it's any consolation, I'm not aware of their past either. Still, I know your father and Layla were very close growing up, which makes it almost poetic for their children to be close. Naruto simply nodded and spaced out as he looked out into the distance as he started to question things more and more. Who exactly was his father? How was he connected to Layla in the past? Sure, Naruto knew about his father being a fairy tale wizard, but even that left major gaps of information. Did Naruto have grandparents? What kind of mission has he been on for so many years? Honestly, it frustrated Naruto with how many questions he could ask himself with little to no answers. Yet Naruto wanted those answers, and the people in his life like Layla and Jiraiya weren't giving him any. So Naruto knew he'd have to take the initiative to seek out the truth. Still, doing that would require leaving Lucy behind to travel, and with Layla's worsening condition, that was something he didn't know if he could do. Since he didn't want to leave Lucy alone. It would kill him to know he left her through that kind of pain alone. After all, he knew more than anyone the hardship the loss of a family member was. However, as Naruto was lost in his thoughts, the sound of metal piercing into something soft rang within his ears. Followed by a grunt of pain from Grammy as Naruto saw the woman to his side take multiple fast stabs to the side and back from an assailant from behind. "See, Zoldio?" Grammy gasped as she recognized her assailant as one of her fellow servants. "This is all your fault, Grammy. Layla is dying because of you." Zoldio screamed with tears in his eyes as he twisted the blade one final time. Grammy started to sway back and forth before losing her balance. Naruto, on the other hand, moved in a flicker of light to where he was positioned to deliver a swift kick to Zoldio. In fact, Naruto's leg quickly illuminated with light magic, and in a flash he gave Zoldio a devastating kick to the man's arm. Using so much speed and power that Zoldio's arm slammed into his own chest, and the impact sent him rolling backwards. Naruto then, not wasting a single movement, caught Grammy within his arms and cradled the bleeding woman against his body. Quickly taking a knee as he held tightly onto the woman. Already feeling the woman's blood soak through his clothes and tightened his hold the moment he heard her shallow breathing. "Grammy. Hold on, don't die on me." Naruto began as he looked over the woman with fear in his eyes as blood was pouring out of the woman's body at an alarming pace. "Tell my Brandish I'm sorry. Tell her I love her." Grammy muttered as she coughed up some blood. "No, you'll tell her yourself. We will find help." Naruto cried back, but as he felt the woman's chest lower and felt her movements grow still, he froze. Realizing she was dead in his arms. So biting his lip, Naruto simply placed the woman gently on the ground and stood to his feet. "This is all my fault. I thought we were safe here and got distracted. Why would you do this?" Naruto quickly moved his gaze to Zoldio, noticing the man had not moved from his earlier kick and was laying on his back. Yet as Naruto looked at the man's unmoving form, he could see the knife he had used to stab Grammy lodged in the middle of his chest. "He isn't." Naruto muttered as he dashed over to Zoldio and stood over the former servant. Seeing that Naruto had accidentally kicked the man's knife into his own chest. Resulting in a killing blow as Zoldio was dead at Naruto's feet. Naruto began before pausing on his words as he felt like puking right then and there. As the guilt of realization had washed over him. "I killed him." To Naruto, this couldn't get any worse as death had been following him like a curse his entire life. First was the loss of his sister that crushed him. Then came the sacrifice of his mother that left him empty, and for all he knew his father could be dead as well. Of course there was Layla who could pass any day now, but adding Grammy along with being responsible for killing a man was too much. Who would be next? Lucy? Naruto would rather kill himself than have her death on his consciousness. Then Naruto? A familiar and terrified voice spoke up, which made Naruto look to his side. Horrified to find Lucy accompanied by one of her servants, Spedo. Who was taking a protective stance between the two blondes as she used her hand to hold Lucy back and away from Naruto. Naruto himself was covered in blood and standing over one of two dead servants. A scene that left little to the imagination and instantly made Naruto look like the culprit of two very vicious murders. "It's not what it looks like." Naruto began in desperation as his heart sank the moment he saw the fear in Lucy's eyes. She had never given him that look before and it shattered him. "You stay away from her." Spedo screamed as she pushed Lucy back slightly to not only protect her, but also stand in the way to shield her eyes from the two dead bodies in front of them. "Layla took you in and this is how you thank her? By killing two of her most trusted servants and friends. By killing my friends." Taking a step backwards, Naruto was overwhelmed and slowly started slipping into a panic attack. As in the span of minutes he had watched someone die in his arms, kill a man and see his closest and most precious person look at him like he was a monster. Naruto tried to defend himself, but as he heard the sound of Lucy crying he broke. So panicking and afraid, Naruto did the only thing he could think of at that moment and took off in a flicker of yellow light. 1 week later. Naruto had been running for days, collapsed on the nights in exhaustion, and sobbed in desperation the remainder of his time. He was malnourished and hardly ate or drank anything. His clothes were worn and tattered and covered in both dry and fresh blood. Since he had had a few accidents in the last few days and roughed himself up in the process. It was also obvious to say that he hadn't bathed in several days and smelled absolutely putrid. Yet he did have a destination in mind. Since he knew there was only one place he could go for help. That of course being Jiraiya. Who was the only person Naruto had left to turn to for any sort of help. However, Naruto was slowly running out of steam and didn't know if he could even make the journey on foot. He knew the man's main base of operations was only a few more days worth of travel, but as he sat against a tree in the dark empty forest, Naruto was starting to think he would die before he ever reached his destination. Maybe I should just stop pushing forward. Naruto mused as he slowly started to drift into unconsciousness. I do miss Mom and Altair. The green light piercing through the darkness, Naruto glanced at the necklace resting over his chest. Finding a small spark ignited within his body as he knew what this meant. Naruto, are you there? Lucy's soft angelic voice came out of the gemstone loud and clear. Yet Naruto simply looked at the crystal with a conflicted expression. He had created them, so he was aware of how they worked. If Lucy channeled her magic into her necklace, then Naruto's would glow and allow her to speak to him, and vice versa. So Naruto didn't have to respond, as all he had to do was channel his magic, and Lucy's necklace would glow as well. Letting the girl know that he was at least listening to her. So taking a swallow and planning to say nothing, Naruto touched the necklace and pushed his magic through it. His heart almost skipped a beat the moment he heard Lucy gasp in response. Yet this was followed by both blondes sitting in silence, as neither spoke a word to each other. However, after a few moments Lucy was the one to break the silence. Did you really kill Grammy and Zoldio? Naruto didn't know how to respond, as he couldn't find the words. Since in his mind he indirectly killed Grammy with his carelessness and was responsible for Zoldio's death. So instead of making a reply he merely sat in silence. Mom didn't believe you did. She even yelled at Spedo. I've never seen Mom get so angry before. Naruto's voice hitched and Lucy heard the slight noise. There was a reason Naruto adored Layla, as she always loved and believed in him like he was her own son. She was making demands all week for people to run out and find you. She was even planning on hiring a guild to track you down and make sure you were okay. Naruto felt tears leak out the corner of his eyes. By all accounts he had made an awful lapse in judgment. He should have ran to Layla first. He should still be by her side with Lucy right this very moment. Mom passed last night in her sleep. Came the revelation from a broken Lucy, which completely shattered Naruto into pieces. I'm sorry. Naruto muttered as he felt the tightness within his chest that caused a sensation like he was practically impaled into the tree he was against. Since not only had he lost Layla, but Lucy lost her mother. She was alone right now, and Naruto wasn't there for her, which broke the promise he had made to Layla on her deathbed. Naruto, I miss her. Hearing Lucy's sobs through the necklace, Naruto stood to his feet. His balance was off and his entire body ached, but to hell with that. To hell with everything. Lucy needed him and he was going to be there for her. So stepping forward, Naruto was going to crawl back to Lucy if that's what it took. Yet as Naruto took a single step forward his vision blurred and his legs buckled. Then before he could even catch himself he fell onto the forest floor unconscious. Severing the link between himself and Lucy. The following day. Grunting and opening his eyes, Naruto's senses were overtaken by the smell of a fire and food. What the hell happened? Naruto groaned as his eyes slowly adjusted to his surroundings and he rubbed the side of his head. Though oddly enough he was in absolutely no pain, but still pretty hungry. Jello, he's awake. A young and energetic voice cried out as Naruto was face to face with a young girl no older than 5 or 6 with long dark blue hair. Well, give him some space, Wendy. I'm sure he's probably starving. A second voice spoke as Naruto saw a boy around his age with spiky blue hair and an eye-marking approach. The so-called Jello held out a bowl of some sort of soup while Naruto mainly paid attention to the several magical staffs on his back. Trying to figure out rather quickly if he was in danger or not. Who are you two? Naruto asked on edge as Jello gave Naruto a friendly smile. My name is Jello and this is my friend Wendy Marvell. Her healing magic is mostly responsible for why you're alive. Jello explained as he practically forced the food into Naruto's hands. And just who might you be? Naruto Namikaze. Naruto explained as he started to dig into the food. He didn't care what the food was or if it was poison. He was far too hungry to worry about anything besides if they had more or not. It's nice to meet you, Naruto. Wendy cheered in a happy voice, which showed a rather pleasant disposition. I'm glad I was able to use my magic to help you. I owe you a debt of gratitude for not only saving my life. Naruto held the empty bowl he practically inhaled into the air. But also feeding me. Think nothing of it, but tell me. Why are you out here anyway? Jelil asked, which made Naruto pause for a second. Since it was time for his specialty, half-truths. I was traveling to an old family friend. I know a fair amount of magic and was hoping to either get a place to stay or at least a way to earn some money to take care of myself. Jelil lifted his brow. Does this friend have their own guild? Not exactly, but he has plenty of connections. So I could work for him or have him get me into a guild. Naruto replied honestly. Jelil hummed and grabbed his staff, which almost instantly caused Wendy to pass out asleep. Something that made Naruto instantly go on edge, but Jelil quickly held his hands up. I mean no harm. I just want to talk without Wendy hearing us. Naruto narrowed his eyes and stayed ready to move on a moment's notice. About what exactly? You want the truth? Jelil asked with a laugh. I'm a prince from a parallel world who traveled to this dimension to stop a doomsday spell anima that my father the king has been using to drain magic from this world into our own. So to save this world and everyone within it, I've been closing as many anima portals as I possibly can. Unfortunately, I've also found myself as the caretaker of a young dragon slayer and I've been trying to find a safe place to leave her so I can continue my quest. Naruto scratched his head at the information given to him. You're very trusting to someone you just met. That's also a lot to take in. Well, I'm a good judge of character and I'm incredibly desperate. So can you take Wendy with you? Make sure she is safe. Naruto folded his arms. How dangerous is this so-called anima that you're talking about? It would mean the end of your dimension and everyone within it. Jelil replied as Naruto didn't like that answer one bit. Since that meant Lucy was in danger and he wouldn't sit by for that at all. And what will you do once you leave Wendy? Probably join a guild to help get information on where other portals might be opening. And what if I had an alternative plan for the both of us? What do you mean exactly? Naruto gave Jelil a look of pure conviction. If this world is in danger, I won't sit back and do nothing. There is someone I care for more than anything and I will protect her. So here is my counter offer. The three of us will go to my friend Jiraiya, he can place us within a guild to keep Wendy safe. While in the meantime we use his connections and the guild connections to close these portals. Jelil rubbed his chin at the idea. That's not a bad idea, but I should mention something. I'll need to change my identity when we arrive at a guild. Since your world and mine are parallel, there is someone here in this dimension who looks just like me. So to avoid any issues I'd have to conceal myself. Naruto nodded. That should be easy enough. Naruto replied as he held his hand outward. Partners. Jelil quickly accepted Naruto's gesture. Partners. The boy from another world replied, as neither knew this was the start of one of the world's strongest wizard teams to ever be formed. A few days later. Jiraiya couldn't believe his eyes. He was still questioning whether or not it was some hallucination magic user trying to get the drop on him or if the person standing in the midst of his personal office was real. Considering he currently had Naruto right in front of him, who looked like he had honestly gone through hell. Yet despite the tattered clothing, dried blonde, cuts and bruises, with the most obvious need for a bath he had ever seen or rather smelt. For Jiraiya it was like looking in the past, as Naruto looked nearly identical to his father. Since Jiraiya himself had a very strong sense of deja vu seeing Naruto show up at his establishment exactly like his father before him so many years ago. Naruto? Jiraiya mumbled softly as he quickly stood to his feet. What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be with Layla and her family? Naruto cringed at the question. I should, but something happened. Or the better way to phrase it would be that way too many things happened. Quickly balling his fists and looking to the ground, Naruto felt a lump within his throat. I killed someone. Jiraiya lifted his brow. Explain everything to me and don't leave any details out. Naruto nodded. Layla had been incredibly sick recently and I was at her bedside. An old servant named Grammy had come to see Layla and gave her a celestial gate key. After they talked, Layla asked me to walk Grammy out and I did, but when we were walking I wasn't paying attention. Someone named Zoldio stabbed and killed Grammy. I was caught off guard and just reacted on instinct by kicking him away, but when I kicked him I accidentally shoved his knife into his chest. I killed him and I haven't been right since. Jiraiya sighed and maneuvered around his desk. Like you said, it was an accident and you didn't mean for it to happen. The older wizard quickly bent onto his knee to be eye level with Naruto. Did you enjoy watching him die? Did it make you happy knowing you killed him? No, it makes me sick to my very core. Good, that feeling makes you human. Killing whenever it's accidental or not should never make you feel better. Jiraiya placed a strong hand on Naruto's shoulder and gave the boy a tight squeeze. Well, killing is wrong, there may come a time when you have to take a life again. So don't get accustomed to it, but accept that at times you have no option. It's a lesson you've had the unfortunate experience of learning at a young age, but that will make you stronger. But I didn't even tell you the rest. Lucy saw me right at the end of everything, which not knowing better made it look like I killed them both. What happened from there? The servant with Lucy was yelling at me and I was so overwhelmed, Jiraiya. I'd never seen Lucy so afraid. Afraid of me. So I panicked. I panicked and ran as far away as I could. And you came to me. Jiraiya quickly realized, which made Naruto simply nod his head and wipe the tears that were fighting their way from his eyelids. Then I learned Layla had died and I wasn't there for either her or Lucy. I wanted to go back to Lucy and sort everything out, but I passed out from exhaustion. I probably would have died, but Jelil and Wendy saved me. Naruto looked over his shoulder to the door. They actually both came with me and I asked them to wait outside as we talked. Since Jelil had told me something that made me realize I couldn't go back to Lucy. What do you mean? Naruto quickly told Jiraiya everything he knew, from Jelil being from another world to Wendy being a dragon slayer. He explained the dangers of the anima and why he wanted to help Jelil stop the magic from being stolen from their world. Laying out the plans that he and Jelil both came up with to not only ensure Wendy's safety, but the safety of everyone in Earthland. Jiraiya, taking a moment to process the very long list of information given to him, eventually stood to his feet. Shaking his head as he walked past his desk. Kid, you're not only the spitting image of your father, but it's terrifying how similar the two of you are. Seriously, what is with you two? Throwing yourself into dangerous secret quests for the sake of someone else. It's the right thing to do. Naruto replied with conviction behind his voice, while his eyes held a strong icy resolve behind them. And most importantly, if I don't do this, then Lucy will be in danger and I won't stand for that. Jiraiya shook his head and walked over to a small closet within his office. Regardless, I'll help you and your little friend. I can get you both information with my spy network and get you into Fairy Tail. I'll also speak with Makarov, as he is someone you can trust just like me. Naruto watched Jiraiya dig through his closet while scratching his head. My dad did speak often of him. Hell, I've wanted to join Fairy Tail for years. I even told Lucy once or twice about wanting to join. Well, it's high time you met Maki, but your friend Jelil isn't the only one using a fake identity. Jiraiya, waving a white mask in the air, wasted no time throwing it at Naruto. You're going to go by a new name as well. In fact, the only people who will know you're in Fairy Tail will be me, your two friends outside who won't tell a soul your real name, and Makarov. Looking at the mask, Naruto noticed it had 2 eye holes and was decorated with red and orange paint to resemble a toad. Why exactly do I have to use a fake identity? Jiraiya sighed heavily and leaned against his desk. Naruto, you're incredibly smart, just think for a second. Your father, a high-profile wizard saint, had taken a mission that I refused to give you details on. Because that mission spiraled your father into so much deep shit that he placed his entire family into hiding. Hell, just think, kid. Why was Layla the person Minato left you with? He could have taken you to Fairy Tail with Makarov. However, if people learned who you are, they would have gone after you to get to Minato. I'm getting stronger. Naruto replied as he gripped tightly onto the mask in his hands. Not as strong as your dad's enemies. I mean, do you want to protect the Tertfilia girl? Cause if anyone even sniffed out a connection between you, Minato and her, well then her life is in just as much danger. So you're gonna go by Menma and your little friend will go by the name Mystigan. That's the only way I'm helping you. Naruto merely nodded in response. I understand, Jiraiya. From here on out, unless it's with someone who knows me, I'll be Menma. However, in return I want to know about my father's disappearance. I want to know what quest he was on. Kid, I promised your dad I would never tell you anything. I'll help and support you any way I can, but I won't let you follow his path. For now, just focus on one world-ending crisis at a time. You're only 10. Naruto didn't like the answer he was given, but he could at least respect Jiraiya's choice. After all, the man was only looking out for Naruto's best interest. Well, since we've talked everything out, let me introduce you to Wendy and Jelil. I think that would be a good idea, but I have one more thing to give you. Jiraiya explained as he turned back to his closest and pulled out one more item. It's something that used to belong to your father. Naruto, watching Jiraiya pull an item out, merely raised his brow. That was my father's. Grinning like a madman, Jiraiya nodded and tossed the object right to the young blonde. It was, but he left it with me, so now it's yours. Gazing at the black and crimson sword within his hands, Naruto slowly pulled the sheath open to see the near spotless blade. Showing that someone had obviously been keeping it in excellent care. That's not just any sword either, brat. It's a sword used specifically for enhancing and casting rune magic. So don't let it go to waste. Naruto simply nodded in response and pulled the sword back into the sheath with a small smile. Thank you. Magnolia. Walking down the main street of Magnolia, Naruto did catch a few glimpses of people eyeing him. That was somewhat expected considering his current company. Wendy was the most normal of the trio, but even still a young child with eyes as wide as saucers as she pointed to everything she saw did draw a few looks. Yet the most standout in the trio was definitely between Naruto himself or Gel. Since they both were dressed in their new disguises that were given to them from Jiraiya. Starting with Gel, or how Naruto was to refer to him when speaking to others, Mystigan. The young boy from Idolas wore a dark blue cloak and his arms and legs were mostly covered in bandages. To conceal his identity, he also donned a dark blue bandana with a silver forehead protector and a green mask that obscured the bottom half of his face. Of course, his look was completed by his numerous magical staffs that were still strapped to his backside. Naruto, on the other hand, wore a sleeveless black shirt with a high collar and matching black pants. Over his shirt he had a sleeveless grey flak jacket and matching grey metal arm and leg guards. Like how Jello kept his many staffs fastened to his back, Naruto kept his sword strapped to his own backside for ease of use. Finally finishing his disguise, Naruto wore the porcelain white mask with the toad markings from Jiraiya. "This place is so amazing." Wendy cheered as she quickly turned her excitement to Naruto and Gel. "Are you excited to join Fairy Tail, big bro?" Smirking under his mask, Naruto felt a small feeling of joy at being referred to as an older brother. Something which Wendy had started doing to help her get better at not accidentally referring to them by their actual names. "It should be interesting. What do you think, Mystigan?" "I have heard rumors that Fairy Tail is rather wild. So I would agree to it being interesting." Gel replied back in a calm voice. "Hey, I think I see the guild building in the distance." Wendy shouted as she pointed to a large building at the edge of town. "Let's go be wizards." Naruto laughed the moment he watched Wendy take off running, while Gel quickly followed to ensure she didn't get lost. Leaving the blonde walking a little behind the two at his own pace. His life was changing at a rapid pace, but this change was all for one person. So slightly pulling down the collar of his shirt, Naruto fished out the necklace he had tucked underneath his clothing. He had a million things he wanted to say to Lucy at this moment. Yet at the same time, with the path he was walking and the supposed danger of even being around him, Naruto knew distance was what he needed to keep. Still, he couldn't just forget about Lucy, as he truly loved his best friend. So even if he was going to keep his distance and even if she hated him, Naruto channeled magic into his necklace but remained silent. He didn't have anything to say and he honestly couldn't even find the words. However, at least she would know he was alive and still holding on to the one thing that kept them linked together. Then after a brief second, Naruto cut the flow of his magic, ending the link that he was sending to Lucy. "It's foolish to even try. For all I know, she probably threw her necklace away." Naruto mumbled softly as he was about to place his necklace away. Though his necklace glowing for the same brief moment he had made Lucy's glow did make Naruto smile. Knowing that she might not have spoken either, but she was at least keeping the last thing that linked them together as well. Chapter end. Chapter 3. The S-Class Mistake. Outside of the Fairy Tail Guild. Standing at the massive doors to their future, Naruto, Wendy and Gel all stood in momentary silence. Their imaginations each playing out a different scene as they listened to the loud bustling guild. Trying their hardest to figure out just what they were in store for. "I'm a little nervous," Wendy admitted softly. "You'll be fine, Wendy. You have me and Menma with you." Gel replied in a calm and reassuring voice as he gave the small wizard a pat on the head. Beaming at the older boy with a smile as bright as the sun, Wendy quickly felt at ease with the boy she saw as an older brother at her side. "That does make me feel better." "Well," Naruto began as he placed his hands onto the doors and pushed them open. "Let's rip this bandage off and go join a guild." Upon pushing the doors open, the sight of chaos came on full display for the trio. Finding numerous individuals either engaged in high-spirited drinking and partying or quick-tempered exchanges of fists in an all-out fight. Naruto himself blinked underneath his mask as the fairy tale he was currently looking at was nothing like his father's stories. "Now I'm starting to wonder if this place will be safe for Wendy," Gel mumbled under his breath. "I mean, can't judge a book by its cover, right?" Naruto added in with an awkward laugh. "All the same, we should find the master." Naruto nodded and walked into the threshold of the guild first as Wendy followed his lead and Gel stood protectively behind the dragon slayer. Yet as he walked, a scene to the side caught his attention. "You two never learn, do you?" A commanding voice shouted loudly. "Seriously, how many times do I have to scold you?" "We are sorry." Two terrified voices cried back, which earned snickers and laughs from other onlookers within the guild. Glancing at the voice, Naruto saw a girl with crimson red hair who was dressed in armor scolding two boys. One of the two was a boy around his age with pink hair and a scarf, but the other was someone Naruto recognized instantly as his mother's old student Grey Fullbuster. The same student his mother gave her life to protect. Naruto himself didn't expect to run into someone from his past within this guild, and honestly, with knowing the role Grey played in Ur's fate, Naruto didn't know what to feel at the moment. Yet Naruto wasn't the only one caught off guard by the trio, as Wendy kept her eyes on the boy with pink hair. Since with her heightened sense of smell, she could smell the scent of a dragon on him. Meanwhile even Gel was at a loss of words, as he could only look at the girl scolding the boys with an aching heart. Since he was staring at the alternate version of someone who was very dear to his heart. "Well, you three look new." An unfamiliar voice pointed out with a small laugh, which broke each child out of their thoughts. Naruto and Gel both looked down, while Wendy stayed eye level with the speaker. All three finding themselves looking directly at the master of fairy tale, Makarov Dreyer, whose reputation as a short old man definitely lived up to itself. "We are new." Wendy giggled in a happy and excited voice as she gave the master a friendly smile. "Me and my big brothers are here to join fairy tale." "Is that so? Well, lucky for you, I just so happen to be the master of this guild." Wendy's eyes grew wide at the revelation and Gel remained unmoved by the information. Naruto on the other hand knew the man instantly from his father's old pictures and stories. Unlike the guild, Makarov had at least on first impressions been like his father's stories. A short but cheery and kind old man who oversaw everyone within the guild. "Master Makarov." Naruto suddenly spoke up as he pulled out a letter for the powerful wizard to read. "Here is a detailed letter from the sage." Makarov merely tucked the letter into his clothing and nodded. "Jiraiya already told me a few things. Let's head into my office." Following the master into his office, Wendy and Gel took a seat across the wizard saint's desk. Naruto on the other hand simply placed one hand onto the door and used his free hand to click his finger. "Rune magic. Silent binding." Naruto mumbled before the entire room was instantly engulfed in runes from every corner. Makarov watching this display from his desk let a small smile slip. "You're really his son, aren't you? To command such powerful rune magic so effortlessly. Can you do this old fool a favor and remove your mask?" Grabbing his mask and pulling it down to reveal a face identical to his father's, Naruto merely sighed. "I wouldn't say effortlessly, but no one should interrupt us." "Well, Naruto, I'm overjoyed to finally have Minato's son coming to my guild. Even if the circumstances are under some complications. It's nice to meet you as well, Master Makarov. My old man told me a few stories about you and this guild." Makarov grinned ear to ear. "Well, perhaps we can swap stories one day. I'd love to hear more about you. I can even tell you a few things about your parents." Naruto felt a tightness within his chest as his family had quickly become a sore subject within his life. Yet he couldn't lie, Naruto wanted nothing more than to learn about his parents' past. Especially if it pushed him in the direction of finding his father. "I would like that." Makarov nodded and turned his attention to the other two in the room. "Well, I've handled most of the paperwork and have set up a place for you three to live. Wendy, you'll be living in the Fairy Hills girls' dorm. I am also going to have a very respected wizard from the guild be your mentor as you adjust. Her name is Urza Scarlet." Del slightly flinched at the girl's name but kept his thoughts to himself. "I can't wait to meet her, master. She's strict but will take care of you. Now Naruto and Gel, or should I get into the habit of calling you Menma and Mystigan?" Naruto held his hand up. "I prefer Naruto. Just call me Menma around others. I have no preference, but you can call me by my name in private as well." The boy from the other world added. "Well, Fairy Tail is lacking a male dorm like we do for the girls. However, I've set each of you up with a nice apartment of your own. The rent is cheap and Jiraiya has covered the first few months. Still, you'll need to take jobs to keep your apartments." "That's fine. I was planning to take several quests to gather more experience anyway," Naruto admitted. "And I know Gel is planning to do the same." Grabbing a small device used to stamp guild marks onto new members, Makarov approached the three children. "Well, let's make it official. Where would you like your guild marks?" Gel, exposing his right bicep, bent down and allowed Makarov to give him a dark blue fairy tail insignia just below his shoulder. Wendy following next eagerly stepped forward to get a guild mark that was identical to the one Makarov had given Gel. Leaving Naruto as the final one to get a guild mark. So following Gel and Wendy's example, Naruto got a guild mark below his right shoulder. However, unlike the others, his guild mark was pitch black. "We are finally fairy tale wizards." Wendy cheered with excitement as she gazed at the mark on her arm with wonder and amazement. "This is the best day ever." "Well, let's go introduce you to everyone." Makarov proposed with a wide smile, but paused when he noticed Naruto slightly hiding his face with his mask before grabbing the door. "Actually, if it wouldn't be an issue. I would like to speak to you in private," Naruto explained as he left the door open for both Wendy and Gel. "Not at all, my boy. Wendy and Mystigan go mingle with the guild and I'll be out shortly to show you all around." Gel nodded and silently led Wendy out of the office, which left Naruto and Makarov alone in the office. This caused a blonde to close the door once more and remove his mask. "What can I do for you, my boy?" Naruto sighed and his fingers pressed ever so slightly harder onto the mask within his hands. I want to know more about my father. Makarov merely kept a neutral expression. If that's all, don't worry. I already said I'll tell you all kinds of stories about his time in the guild. That's not what I mean. Naruto began as he felt a lump behind his throat, finding it harder to get the words out as he spoke. I know nothing about my father. I know he married my mother and was a wizard. That's it. I don't know how he knew Layla, I don't know where my father came from or if I have grandparents. I definitely don't know what mission he took that forced my family into hiding and caused him to disappear. Neither Jiraiya or Layla would ever tell me anything. And with good reason. Makarov replied sternly as he folded his arms. Your father is a complicated man with an even more complicated life. Both in the past and present. So like everyone else you're gonna keep secrets from me? Now don't go throwing accusations around. Both Layla and Jiraiya withheld truths from you for your own safety. You're still just a child, my boy. A child who has mastered two extremely powerful magics. Naruto snapped back with fire behind his eyes, which did make Makarov chuckle. Mastering a magic and becoming a master in its application are two completely different things. And I'm afraid you're far behind an actual master in practice. Especially when compared to your father. Naruto remained silent as he was smart enough to know the master was correct. Even if the truth sparked a good deal of frustration within himself. Still I sympathize with you Naruto. Makarov began softly as he closed his eyes. You've experienced far too much loss for someone your age, but yet you still push forward and fight against the impossible. You're just like your father in so many ways that it terrifies me. I've hardly known you, but it's like stepping back in time with your father once again. And why does that terrify you? Makarov sighed. Because your father, despite being a noble man with good intentions, always jumped headfirst into everything. I mean this anima situation you and young Jelil are undertaking is the kind of world disaster level situation your father would find himself in. And I can only guess the reasons why you would take up such a dangerous quest with no actual experience are exactly the same reasons as your father. I'm not like my father. I'm not helping Jelil out of the kindness of my heart or desire to save the world. My reasons are completely selfish. Naruto replied, but was quickly taken back by the older wizard's booming laughter. By the gods your Minato made over 1,000 times. Naruto gritted his teeth. What is so funny? Wiping a tear from his eye, Makarov's face shifted into a more serious expression. Just tell me the girl's name. What? Forcing himself to keep a serious expression, Makarov pointed to the wall. Where Naruto saw the same picture his father had shown him all those years ago. A picture that held the younger versions of both his parents within its frame, along with other wizards of fairy tales past. Like I asked my boy. What's her name? For your father the answer was Milkovich. Lowering his head, Naruto quickly realized the master was right about him. Lucy Hertfilia. The young wizard mumbled softly, which made Makarov smile. Layla's child huh? The world is a funny place is it not? Naruto was annoyed by the man's response, as once again it just hinted more to the past involving his father and Layla. A past he knew nothing about. She's precious to me. Without Lucy I would have never got over my mother and older sister's deaths. Our parents knowing each other may have brought us together, but our bond is deeper than just our parents. Naruto paused on his words and felt the slightest pain within his chest. Or at least it was. Makarov nodded. Have you spoken with her since the day the incident happened? Jiraiya told you about that. He is in the business of giving information. Naruto snorted. When it's convenient. When it comes to keeping you safe. Makarov corrected. Well if you two are allowed secrets just know Lucy will be mine to keep. So that's a no then on talking to her. Makarov replied back, which did make Naruto's eye twitch in response. Giving the seasoned wizard his answer. I'm keeping my distance. Naruto grumbled with annoyance under his tone. If it's so dangerous for me to be known publicly as Naruto Namikaze. Then I'm not placing Lucy in danger. Not unless I'm confident in my ability to keep her safe. And besides that, there are the other complications of our relationship. First off the issue of Lucy thinking I'm a killer, which isn't a lie. You're not a killer. Makarov cut in with anger and authority that genuinely caught the young blonde off guard. You never intended to kill that man and I won't stand for you calling yourself a killer. Naruto nodded at the man, but still hung his head in shame. There is also the fact I left Lucy alone and wasn't there for when Layla passed. People can be forgiven for their mistakes. Never forget that my boy and don't choose a path you regret. Some precious bonds are worth the effort and risk to keep them. Thank you master, but I'd rather die than be the reason Lucy gets hurt or worse. Then like you said. Get stronger to protect her. Makarov proposed with a simple smile. I know I'm young, but don't confuse my age for ignorance. My father was one of the strongest within all of Fiori and he still lost my mother, sister and Layla. Hell for all I know he is dead as well. Being strong can't protect everyone. Actually my boy, we will never know, as your father was never around to see if he was strong enough to protect them. He was always running and fighting a battle within the shadows, which is a path you're walking down. What are you getting at? Perhaps if Minato would have leaned on others more and made better choices, things would have worked out differently. Most certainly you could agree him hiding everyone and shouldering all his burdens alone was a poor choice. I know Jiraiya, Layla, myself and many others would have helped years ago if he would have let us. After all, you experienced firsthand the impact having Layla in your life had. So imagine being raised like that from the start. It's rather pointless at this point to talk about what ifs, master. Yes, but it's not pointless to learn a lesson from your father's actions. Naruto folded his arms and lifted his brow. So what? Are you telling me to lean on others more? You have a large group of people behind you currently and within Fairy Tail that number will only grow. I'm sure you've already seen your mother's student. I have. I hold no resentment for Gray, but I won't be going out of my way to talk to him. I'll keep him at the same distance as everyone else. Even young Wendy. I don't want to push anyone away. I hope you know that, master, but I'm tired of losing people. Naruto, I see such a bright and brilliant young man in front of me. One who is just as talented as his father. Unfortunately, like your father, you believe distancing yourself is the best way to keep someone. However, all you're doing is losing the people around you and squandering the time you could have had. Then what should I do? Follow my father's example? Hide myself like Jiraiya once? Or just say to hell with it all? For now, play the role of Menma and get stronger. Get yourself to a point where you can at least protect yourself. Then when you feel like you're ready, take a path different from your father. But when will I know I'm ready? Trust me, kid. You'll know when the time is right, but if that answer isn't good enough, how about a deal? What kind of deal are we talking about, master? Makarov gave his new wizard a cheeky grin. If you become an S-class wizard and then introduce me to a girlfriend who you truly love, then I'll tell you every damn thing I know about your father. His past and his present for that matter. Really, master? Naruto grumbled with annoyance. That's my deal, Naruto. Take it or leave it. I can understand being an S-class wizard, but why do I have to get a girlfriend? Because that will place you right at the same fork in the road as your father. However, when that time comes, hopefully you will have grown enough to make a better choice than Minato. Just maybe when you have a bond that deep you won't follow your father. Instead you will take the road to happiness instead of isolation and misery. So how about it? Do we have a deal? I'll take the deal, master. Makarov grinned ear to ear and motioned to the door. Then let's start your journey as a fairy tale wizard. Placing his mask back to conceal his identity, Naruto nodded and dropped the runes around the room. After you, master. 1 year later, X778. Walking down the main street of Magnolia, Naruto was currently returning to the place he had called home for the last year, Fairy Tail. He had been gone the last several weeks on a few A-class missions and closed a few anima portals. Leaving the coin pouch within his requip space a little heavier and his goal on saving Earthland growing closer by the day. Yet as he traversed the streets of Magnolia, many onlookers whispered and pointed at the masked wizard. Considering within the last year Naruto, or how he was known to the public, Menma, had earned a rather impressive reputation. Rarely did Naruto ever showcase his light magic and mostly stuck to utilizing his rune magic along with the sword Jiraiya had gifted him. This, coupled with his masked identity that left an air of mystery behind him, quickly earned him the title of the Ghost of Fairy Tail. Naruto himself didn't quite care for the attention he was gathering, as it seemed every reporter and sorcerer's weekly wanted to unmask him, which was annoying. However, if it wasn't reporters trying to get a peek at his identity, his guildmates were equally as bad. Since a majority of them had tried everything from trying to force his mask off to pressing Wendy for answers. These advances normally resulted in Naruto kicking someone's ass until they were too afraid to test him. Of course, Naruto wasn't the only identity people were obsessed with, as Gel got a fair amount of people trying to unmask him as well. However, Gel's response to these attempts was a simple sleep spell and avoiding the guild for the most part. Two things that Naruto never partook in, as even though he would never admit it. He truly loved the chaos of the guild and the people within it. Yet as Naruto arrived at the doors to Fairy Tail, he pushed the doors open and quietly entered the loud, rambunctious building. Though a single mop of blue hair quickly snapped her gaze at him the moment his scent reached her heightened sense of smell. "Big brother, you're back." Wendy called out happily as she quickly darted directly to the masked boy's side. Wasting no time, throwing herself into Naruto's side and giving him a strong hug. Naruto patted the small girl's head and chuckled softly. "Sorry I took so long. My last quest ended up taking longer than expected." A small white cat poking herself from Wendy's shoulder, Naruto was quickly met with a disapproving gaze. "Honesty, Menma, would it be so hard to send word that you would be late returning home? You had Wendy worried sick." Naruto, slightly cringing under his mask, held his tongue at the talking cat. A few months ago Wendy and Natsu had found 2 eggs that hatched into talking cats, and each cat had taken a liking to one of the dragon slayers. The particular cat with Wendy was Carla, who was rather protective and stern with Wendy, but overall cared for the girl a lot. "Carla, it's okay. Both Menma and Mystigan have very important duties and can't always be here for me," Wendy defended in response, which made Naruto smile. "Plus Natsu, Happy, Lisana and you have been keeping me out of trouble." Carla huffed in response, while Naruto bent down onto one knee to be eye level with Wendy. "Natsu? Keeping you out of trouble? Now I find that hard to believe." Naruto began with a laugh as he gave Carla a friendly pat on the head. "But Carla is right. I need to do better as your older brother. Maybe we can go for lunch tomorrow. My treat." "That would be wonderful. And maybe a quest too," Wendy replied with stars in her eyes. "Sorry kiddo, you know my quests are too dangerous for you," Naruto explained in a stern voice. "You're not ready for my kind of missions yet. But do you always gotta take such difficult quests?" Naruto sighed. "If I plan to make it to S-class then yes. Laxus was selected this year, but I'm going to do everything I can to make S-class next year." "I can help," Wendy cried back as she wanted nothing more than to spend more time with Naruto or Gel. "Natsu and Urza both have been helping me with my offensive spells and my support spells have only gotten better. Maybe one day Wendy. When you're a little bigger." Wendy hung her head in defeat. "Okay big bro." Naruto was about to respond to Wendy, but a sudden heat to his backside made him react on instinct. So by twisting his torso, Naruto spun around and grabbed onto the wrist of an individual to his backside. Then using all his strength, Naruto slammed his attacker onto the guild's floor. Then by pulling the person's arm behind their backside, Naruto forcefully placed his knee directly into their spine. "Really Natsu?" Naruto chuckled in a low voice as he watched a fire magic within the boy's hand disappear. "Still trying to get the jump on me? You know if you want an ass kicking you just have to ask." Growling in frustration and wiggling with no success of getting free, Natsu looked over his shoulder to the masked boy. "Damn it Menma. How did you know I was coming? I swore Wendy had you distracted." A blue cat floating over the 2 boys, Naruto smirked under his mask. "Well you're as loud as a herd of wild beasts on your feet. Plus your fire magic gives off a sudden heat that is an obvious giveaway. Wouldn't you agree, Happy?" "Aye sir. Natsu just can't learn he can't fight you or Urza." Naruto snickered and looked back down at Natsu. "You're still trying to fight Red too. Damn at this point I think either me or her have given you brain damage at this point. Then let's go for real. I beat you for sure," Natsu declared loudly. Rolling his eyes, Naruto used his free hand to slowly draw a few quick runes onto the boy's back. Rune magic. Heavy binding. Naruto watching the runes glow on the boy's body merely stood upright and folded his arms. "Counter offer. You stay right there for a few hours and think about why you should leave me alone." Finding an overbearing weight pressing him onto the floor, Natsu glared at Naruto. "Just wait till I get up. I'll sock you good jerk." Naruto rolling his eyes looked over at Wendy. "You wouldn't have something to gag him do you?" "Nope." Naruto sighed. "Oh well, I'm going to go find the master. Can you make sure that hothead doesn't hurt himself?" Wendy giggled and gave the older wizard a salute. "Can do." Nodding and walking off, Naruto received a few waves from several wizards and shouts of recognition. However, Naruto only gave small gestures back and kept his eyes towards the guild's bar, where the master was found lazily sipping on some beer with a tinted redness to his face. "And Menma. My boy. Glad to see you're back." Makarov yelled drunkenly as Naruto approached, which did make Naruto sigh at his master's drunken state. "I'm glad to be back master," Naruto replied as he folded his arms over his chest. "All my missions were a perfect success." Having his mug rested against his lips, Makarov smirked with pride at Naruto's results. "If I remember right you took multiple A-class quests at once. Nicely done brat." Naruto chuckled under his breath as he watched Makarov down his mug of beer. "Just trying to prove I'm ready for S-class." Slapping his mug onto the bar top, Makarov let out a loud laugh. "Well someone is aiming high and at a rather quick pace. Thus doing my part of the deal, master." Naruto replied as he pointed one finger to the side of forehead and tapped his mask. "Don't forget your end." Makarov snorted. "I remember brat, but making S-class was only half of the bargain. What have you done about the other half of our deal?" "I'm taking one problem at a time." Naruto grumbled in response, which made Makarov laugh back. "It's not that funny master." "For my amusement it is," Makarov shouted back. "Well I'm glad I can be a source of entertainment but I'm trying my best master. Give me a chance to prove I'm S-class material. Let me take at least one S-class job." Makarov frowned. "Not this conversation again." Naruto nodded. "Absolutely. I've proven that A-class quests are too easy. Just let me take one S-class job. I won't let you down." You need to be S-class in order to take an S-class quest or have an S-class wizard with you. Unfortunately Gilderts isn't around. But I am. Came the sly voice of the master's own grandson, Laxus Dreyer, who casually moved himself into the conversation by taking a seat at the bar. Naruto glanced at his fellow blonde. He himself had very little interactions with Laxus, as Naruto was 11 and Laxus was 4 years older at 15. Laxus also showed little interest in others within the guild and mostly watched the guild from the sidelines. Only ever getting involved with his group of friends consisting of Fried Justine, Evergreen and Bixlow. Are you saying you take me on an S-class mission? Naruto asked with curiosity behind his tone, while Laxus smirked. I might. The lightning-scarred boy replied as he produced a mission request out for Naruto to see. The Magic Council sent out a request to all S-class wizards within Ishikar. Only main requirement is the need for a team of 5 wizards, with one of those 5 being an S-class wizard. Absolutely not. Makarov shouted in defiance as he glared at the 2 boys. I know what damned quest that is and none of you are going. Especially you Menma. Well, saying that makes me want to go even more. Naruto replied back loudly. Come on Gramps, it's just a simple recon mission. We don't even have to fight or do anything dangerous. Laxus argued back. And why are you so keen on going all of the sudden? Makarov grumbled at his grandson. Last I heard you had no interest in this request. Just trying to foster the future of my guild. That in see under Menma's mask. You want to see my face? Naruto grumbled in response. It's a fair trade for getting taken on an S-class quest. You get your quest and I have something to hold over you. Naruto narrowed his eyes under his mask. So that's your aim, huh? Afraid I'm climbing the ranks too fast. Laxus got a rather dangerous gleam behind his eyes and lightning sparked around his torso. Not at all. None of this matters. Makarov roared loud enough to silence the entire guild, which in turn placed every eye onto their conversation. Neither of you are taking that quest. Laxus, you're a newly appointed S-class mage. You're not ready to lead a dangerous mission. Especially with 3 people like Fried, Evergreen and Bixlow who are not ready for S-class missions. And Menma, you're not stepping foot near that mission. Strong enough or not, I refuse you permission above everyone else. Laxus clicked his teeth and stood up. Whatever, old man. The rebellious teen muttered before stomping off. Naruto, equally as upset, turned off towards the guild's exit and kicked the doors open in anger. Making his way back to his apartment with a sour mood and his mind pondering over why Makarov was so against him taking the mission. Wondering just how dangerous an S-class quest really is or if there was a hidden reason behind the master denying him the quest. Naruto was leaning towards the latter but couldn't figure out why. All Naruto did know was that Makarov, like many others, kept a great deal of secrets. Something that pissed Naruto off more than anything. This is ridiculous. Naruto growled loudly as he quickly approached his apartment. Yet as he drew closer he caught a glimpse of Laxus leaning against his door. A sight that only added on to Naruto's growing frustration. What do you want? Holding out a request, Laxus grinned like the devil about to strike a deal. The quest is in 1 month. Keep things to yourself and we can take it without Gramps knowing. You're wanting to go behind the master's back? Laxus shrugged his shoulders. I've learned it's better to ask forgiveness than permission with that old geezer. Plus when we complete the mission he won't be able to complain. And in return I'll have to show you my face. Laxus chuckled. So I take it you're in? Absolutely. Naruto replied without hesitation. I'm tired of people hiding things from me. I want to know why the master is so against me taking this mission. Well, in that case take this. Laxus replied as he tossed a request to Naruto and started to walk off. Your payment for me bringing you along can come later. Walking into his apartment and opening the rolled paper, Naruto felt his heart rate increase as he saw the writing on the request. Urgent S-class request. Objective. Infiltrate the Alvarez Empire and acquire any sensitive information possible. Where the hell is the Alvarez Empire? Naruto mumbled as he walked into his apartment and took a seat. Eyeing the request over and over, trying to figure out what made this mission so difficult. And why is the old man so against me going there? Groaning in frustration, Naruto dropped the request within his hands onto the ground and tossed his head back. Then by grabbing his mask, Naruto removed the part of his attire that concealed his identity. I can't ask the master or Jiraiya. Those old farts would figure out what I'm planning on doing. I also can't risk the master catching me researching the place either. Naruto mumbled as he closed his eyes. I guess the best way to find out is by heading there myself. Opening his eyes and noticing a green glow under his clothing, Naruto slightly smiled. That time of the day, huh? Naruto mumbled as he grabbed his necklace and channeled his magic into the crystal. Then for the next several seconds Naruto stayed silent and kept his thoughts to Lucy. Then just as soon as the crystal started glowing, Naruto frowned as he watched the light die down. Something that made Naruto stop pushing his magic into his necklace and allowed the jewelry to fall against his chest. I'm gonna get stronger, Lucy. I'm not there yet, but I won't stop. Naruto mumbled to no one besides himself. I just hope when the time comes you'll forgive me. 1 month later. Standing at the side of a large passenger ship, Naruto leaned against the railing of the ship that was bobbing against the ocean waves. The hot ocean breeze blasting against his exposed face as he wasn't wearing his usual mask. Instead, Naruto wore a simple pair of black sunglasses to partially conceal his identity. Yet the lack of his mask wasn't the only change to his normal outfit as he was playing the role of a tourist on vacation. So his sword had to be sent into his requip space and his usual clothing was swapped for a pair of blue shorts and a red sleeveless button-up shirt. With his fairy tale guild mark wrapped in bandages to further conceal his identity as a wizard. Keeping the only item of his usual attire as his necklace that was slapping against his chest from the wind. Nervous? A cocky voice asked from Naruto's side. Glancing to Laxus, who was dressed like someone on vacation with shorts and a beach button-up. Naruto fought the urge to roll his eyes. Not really. I know nothing about this vacation spot. Joining Naruto, who was trying to speak in a non-suspicious way, Laxus gazed out to the side of land in the distance. Well, that makes 2 of us. How wonderful. Where are the others? Laxus kept his voice low. They took off and are making arrangements in case we want to end our vacation early. Naruto nodded at the response. So what is on our agenda? I was thinking about sightseeing at the capital. That's a reasonable place to start. How long do you think until Gramps knows we are here? Laxus sighed and closed his eyes. If he hasn't put 2 and 2 together already. I'm sure he will soon. He's gonna be pissed, isn't he? Laxus looked at the younger blonde with a confident smirk. Not after he hears how our time here went. Naruto kept quiet and simply looked forward. Completely unaware of the living nightmare that was awaiting him on the shores of the Alvarez Empire. Chapter end. Chapter 4. Family. Alvarez Empire, Vistarian City. Walking the streets of the capital city of Vistarian with an air of caution. Both Naruto and Laxus maneuvered through the bustling streets together. Preparing for the worst and knowing a smaller group would draw less attention, Laxus made the decision to leave his 3 friends behind. Their single duty within this mission was simply to stand by and safeguard a ship that would be used for a fast escape home when needed. Things look rather normal. Naruto whispered softly as he and Laxus walked down a street that was barricaded on both sides by large buildings that were at least 2 to 3 stories tall. Almost reminds me of home in a way. Laxus scoffed under his breath and gazed upwards at the gargantuan castle in the city center, which most likely held the royal family of this nation. Still, appearances can be deceiving. I talked with Fried before we left them behind and he passed along some information. Care to share? Laxus placed his hands into his pockets and slightly arched his back so he could be closer to Naruto as he whispered. Fried talked to a local on the way here. Apparently the Alvarez Empire started as a relatively small nation, but their king started absorbing more guilds and nations under his command. Some by force and others by a lack of options. Eventually Alvarez became an empire of several nations and well over 700 plus wizard guilds. All controlled under one man. Emperor Spriggan. I can only assume he's very influential or powerful then. Or both. Laxus replied. Naruto nodded and folded his arms. I can only assume we would need more information but should also move carefully. I've had a bad feeling ever since we hit land. Laxus smirked. Afraid, Menma? No, I'm just not overconfident like some. Naruto replied as he lowered his sunglasses, which allowed his bright blue eyes the opportunity to glance at Laxus. TCH, whatever. Laxus grumbled as he removed his line of sight from Naruto and looked forward. Sighing to himself and placing his hands into his pockets, Naruto moved his eyes to the side as well. Watching carefully as the natives of Alvarez all moved about at their carefree daily lives. We need to come up with a strategy, Laxus. Just walking around and bickering won't get us anywhere. Laxus frowned. I'm thinking. Naruto rolled his eyes as he was quickly having some serious regrets about teaming up with Laxus. Considering the older boy in his company wasn't easy to get along with by any means, and Naruto himself didn't have much experience working with others in the first place. Yet the sounds of loud cheering and the movement of large packs of civilians did grab Naruto's attention. It would appear that something is going on. Naruto mumbled softly while Laxus nodded. Sounds like a festival or parade. It'd be worth investigating. Naruto proposed. Or a helpful distraction to investigate somewhere else. Laxus countered. I would agree, but we don't have a lead at the moment. Naruto argued back. Laxus folded his arms and nodded. That's true. I guess it wouldn't hurt to investigate whatever that commotion is. If we are lucky we may find a lead. Naruto added. In that case let's go, but let me do the talking if a situation presents itself. Of course, oh great team leader. Naruto grumbled in response. Not giving Naruto the satisfaction of a response, Laxus simply followed the crowd of people to wherever they were congregating. Naruto, keeping pace with Laxus, followed the older wizard until the two reached a street wider than most. This was because this street was the main roadway that led to the massive castle. Naruto himself took notice that there were civilians gathered in crowds on each side of the street while leaving a massive walking path in the center. A walkway that led straight into the gates of the castle. The parade. Naruto mumbled while Laxus had a frown on his face. No. Laxus replied as he suddenly carried himself with an air of caution. Listen around to the locals. This is a welcoming home. Naruto, doing as Laxus had advised, started to listen into various conversations around him. Hearing people saying things like Spriggan and that he was finally back. Yet these whispers and conversations quickly erupted into applause and praise, while cries of celebration called the name of their returning emperor. The emperor is walking by. Naruto began, which made Laxus nod. Follow me. We should get a closer look. Naruto nodded and followed Laxus as he led the way by pushing and squeezing past multiple people to get to the front of the crowd. Yet as the duo from Fairy Tail made their way to the front of the crowd, their eyes quickly moved down the street. Both gazing at the approaching figure within the distance. Taking notice of an individual with the appearance of a young man. Who was dressed in a high-collared black and tan robe with gold trim and a large flowing white toga that was wrapped around his torso. His hair was short and pitch black, while the eyes were just as black as his hair. Giving the young supposed emperor a rather dangerous look for someone so young in appearance. So that's him. Laxus mumbled softly as he subconsciously tightened his fists. Emperor Spriggan. Instead of making a response, Naruto's eyes drifted to the man flanking the emperor's side. The man in question was dressed in a pair of dark dress pants and a white-collared dress shirt, completely buttoned up with a yellow tie hanging from the neck. Over that, he donned a trench coat with a black border. The color of its interior as well as its exterior matched that of his tie. Dark flame markings were diagonally branded from the left shoulder down to his sleeve and ran down both the front and the back of the coat. However, the most damning features upon the man's face were his long spiky blonde hair and bright blue eyes. Both of which held a rather emotionless and unfamiliar gaze behind them. Yet all the same, Naruto could only look at the man with disbelief and confusion. Considering following ever so closely to the emperor was his missing father, Minato Namikaze. Dad? Naruto croaked in a moment of weakness as he slightly leaned forward to get a better look at the man. Laxus, hearing his fellow fairy tale wizard, could only look down at Naruto with shock. What are you talking about? Ignoring Laxus and taking a step forward, Naruto was almost certain his father was only a few feet away. Something that left Naruto with a strange feeling within his chest and a whirlwind of questions. The older of the two fairy tale wizards, realizing his teammate was inching closer into the walkway of the emperor, tried to reach out and pull Naruto back to him. However, he was too slow and Naruto quickly stumbled his way right into the path of the emperor. Halting the man's approach along with his entire following. Now what do we have here? The emperor mumbled softly with a slight smirk on his face. His eyes looming over Naruto with a rather uninterested stare. Naruto, ignoring the emperor, simply moved his attention directly to the man who he was now certain was his father. Since everything from his stance, height and looks was just as how he remembered his father before he left all those years ago. Dad, it's me. Naruto. The ghost of Fairy Tail began as he stepped forward but froze the moment he saw the hate-filled glare from his supposed father. Laxus, listening on, was surprised by the fact that for the first time it had clicked that Menma was a fake name. However, the older of the two stayed off to the side and tried to remain unnoticed as he didn't know what was going on or how things would turn out. The emperor chuckled at Naruto's declaration and looked back over his shoulder. How interesting. A son you've never told me about. Is August aware of his little grandson? He's not mine. Came the voice identical to his father's that completely crushed Naruto's heart with its abnormal cruelty. Dad, what's going on? I told you it's me. Don't tell me you've forgotten your son. What about Ulti, or do you at least remember her? I have no children by name. Came the annoyed response that made Naruto grit his teeth. This has got to be some kind of joke. You've got to at least remember mom, right? Your wife. Her Milkovich Namikaze. Naruto yelled out as he had finally made a large enough scene to where every bystander was completely silent. I know it's been some time since mom and Ulti are passed, but you have to remember them. You love them. Now that whore's name rings a bell, and it does bring a smile to know she's dead. Came the sly remark that finally sent Naruto over the edge in rage, as that single insult was the spark to ignite years of pent-up frustration. That's it. Naruto growled as to the surprise of everyone watching he vanished in a flash of light. Only to appear right beside the look-alike of his father with his fist held back. I'm done talking. Yet as Naruto threw a fast punch to the man's head, Naruto's fist was instantly intercepted by an open palm catching the strike. However, keeping his momentum, Naruto swung his leg around to deliver a swift kick to the man's ribs. Unfortunately, the man was faster than Naruto and easily brought his forearm up to block Naruto's second strike. Now it's all making sense who you are, Brad. The man mumbled as he quickly moved at speeds Naruto couldn't follow and slammed his elbow into Naruto's stomach, knocking the air from his lungs and making the blonde's eyes roll back into his head from the pain. And knowing that makes this all the more enjoyable. Naruto gritted his teeth in pain and ignited his hand with light magic and pushed through the pain with the intention to attack back. Yet again he was too slow and was quickly blocked, punched in the face and immediately dazed by being slammed onto the ground. Laxus, watching from the sidelines, frowned as the man who Naruto called a father displayed no mercy in beating his supposed son up and down the street. Naruto, to his own credit, kept getting back up and trying his hardest to fight back, but it was obvious that he was completely outclassed. Laxus himself felt sorry for Naruto, and not only for the beating he was receiving, but for the relationship he apparently had with his father. Something that Laxus could relate to, as he didn't have the most healthy relationship with his own father. Yet as Naruto cried out in pain and his blood began to spill onto the ground beneath the man's feet, something within Laxus snapped. So, acting without even thinking, Laxus dashed forward with lightning sparking around his entire body. Using his entire strength and as much magic as possible to punch Naruto's attacker from behind. "Listen here, you piece of garbage." Laxus roared in rage as he watched a man roll down the street and quickly struck a defensive stance over Naruto's body. "You might not claim him as family, but as his senior within the guild, you bet your ass I will." Bloody and bruised, Naruto glanced up to Laxus with a look of disbelief while the sounds of civilians screaming and running away reached his ears. "Laxus." The boy began with both tears and blood streaking down his face. "Can you stand?" Laxus asked in a low voice while never taking his eyes off the man Naruto claimed as his father. Naruto, bowling his fists and pushing himself up, nodded. "Yeah, I'm not done yet." Laxus smirked as Naruto took a fighting stance by his side. "Not bad, brat. You definitely know how to take a beating, but let's see how you do dishing one out. If that man is my father, just know he's a master of rune magic and light magic and also has various other tricks." Naruto explained as he watched the man slowly stalk over to him and Laxus. Laxus nodded and began building up his magic. "Anything else useful to know?" "He's a wizard saint." Naruto mumbled as both his hands flashed to life with light magic. "Unfortunately for him, he's looking at the future master of our guild. Wizard saint or not, he's going down," Laxus declared as he opened his mouth. Lightning dragon's roar. Naruto was completely surprised by the sight of Laxus using a dragon slayer spell. Yet that surprise was nothing in comparison to watching the massive torrent of lightning expel from Laxus's mouth and travel across the distance between the two fairy wizards and their opponent. However, instead of running out of the spell's path, Naruto watched in both realization and horror the moment he saw the man lift his hand upwards. "Rune magic. Space-time barrier." The man mumbled before a massive black magical circle burst to life out of his hand. A magical circle that didn't appear to block Laxus's spell, but instead absorbed it completely. "What?" Laxus shouted in surprise, while Naruto held a much different reaction. Since he was already looking left and right, but once he looked upwards his eyes went wide. "Laxus, move." Naruto yelled as he pulled onto the older boy and jumped backwards. Moving within inches to avoid Laxus's attack that had come down from the sky above and struck the ground they were standing on only seconds ago. "That was my spell just now." Yeah, he used an advanced rune magic spell to redirect the spell's destination. "This is bad, Laxus. I need tons of preparation to barely pull that spell off, and he did it in reaction to your attack." "Well, we can't exactly run now, can we?" Laxus replied in a frustrated voice. "Looks like it's close quarters until we can make a break for it. Or I distract him and you escape," Naruto proposed in response. "Not happening. Now shut your trap and back me up," Laxus yelled as he dashed forward in a burst of speed. Naruto, clicking his teeth, dashed after Laxus and followed the boys' lead as they engaged their opponent in a fierce trade-off of blows. Yet despite the combined effort of Naruto and Laxus, the man with the appearance of Minato Namikaze never buckled or left any room for either boy to capitalize upon. "This is incredibly boring," the man whispered as he kicked Naruto in the stomach and elbowed Laxus in the face. Laxus, gritting his teeth, grabbed Naruto by his shirt and threw him over his shoulder and away from the coming danger. "Don't underestimate us, you bastard," the Dragon Slayer cried out as his entire body began to discharge lightning that actually caught their opponent off guard, resulting in the man getting momentarily stunned by the electricity that was followed by a swift punch from Laxus. Naruto, watching this display, was impressed by the older wizard's quick thinking. However, watching his fellow wizard sparked an idea into Naruto's own head. "Not bad, Laxus. But I've got an idea if you can buy me some time. I'll do what I can. Laxus replied as he was instantly placed on the defensive once again. Naruto nodded and took a crouched position from behind, his finger already drawing several runes at a remarkable pace. Yet simmering his sword into his free hand, Naruto quickly started drawing runes with one hand and even more runes with his sword in the other. A bead of sweat poured down his face as he could hear the sounds of Laxus fighting, along with the evacuation of the civilians around them that was rapidly emptying the streets. However, Naruto kept his entire focus onto his runes as he needed more and he needed them fast. "Brat, you better do something quick." Laxus yelled with exhaustion all over his tone. "Almost done. Cut me a break. I've never done this before." Naruto replied back without even looking up as he was hyper-focused on the runes before him. This is just as advanced as space-time runes, but takes even more preparation and creativity. Laxus being punched hard enough to roll over right in front of Naruto's runes. The older of the two gritted his teeth. "Time's up. Do something." "It's not perfect, but here goes nothing." Naruto yelled as he stood to his feet and held his left arm out while touching his middle finger and thumb together. Then by holding his sword in a reversed horizontal grip he shouted out. "Rune Domain. Flying Thunder God." Within seconds the runes began to glow yellow before busting outward into a large golden dome that surrounded their current battleground. Something that made Naruto grin like a madman as he realized he had actually pulled off an extremely high-level spell of his own design. "Alright Laxus." Naruto began as he narrowed his vision onto the figure of his supposed father. "I want you to go all out, you hear me? Use any spell you've got and I'll worry about the rest." Staggering up to his feet and panting hard, Laxus brought both of his fists up. "I don't know what exactly you did, but I'm gonna trust you. So this is your last-ditch effort? How meaningless." Naruto snapping his finger instantly vanished in a flash of golden light and appeared over top of the man with his sword held high. "Don't be such a cocky asshole." The man turning in reaction quickly followed Naruto's movements. "Here I thought you'd be less of a disappointment. You must get that from your mother." Laxus, taking notice of the distraction caused by Naruto, charged lightning into his hand that quickly took the shape of a massive spear. Lightning Dragon's heavenward halberd. The Dragon Slayer cried as he flung his spell right at the man's exposed backside. The bored expression covering his face, the man quickly moved to intercept Naruto's sword strike. Using an open palm prepared for blocking any attempt at an attack and moving his free hand to his backside in order to once again redirect Laxus's attack by calling out. "Rune magic. Space-time barrier." Naruto, watching the black space-time barrier burst to life, couldn't fight the wild grin from coming across his face. Considering with one small snap of his fingers, Naruto and Laxus's spell instantly swapped places. Laxus, watching in amazement and now understanding what Naruto had done, could only watch with a smirk as his spell smacked directly onto its target while Naruto slipped under the barrier and slashed the look-alike of his father from behind. "Never insult my mother again," Naruto shouted in response. "Not bad, brat." Laxus praised as both of his fists sparked with lightning magic. "Switch me in." Naruto, merely snapping his finger, vanished in a flicker of light and was replaced by Laxus, who instantly brought a double-fisted side strike into the man's ribcage. A devastating blow that actually knocked him off balance and sent him rolling onto the ground. Naruto, bending down onto the ground, scooped some small rocks and rubble into his hand. Then as he watched Laxus rush forward, he quickly threw the small projectiles forward. The warrior from Alvarez, using his fast thinking and athletic ability, regained his balance and took a defensive stance. His hate-filled eyes already locked onto Laxus, who was a few feet away, while he made sure to watch Naruto from a distance. Considering he had already figured out how this particular spell worked and knew he just had to keep his eyes on both younger wizards. Neat little party trick, but it's only effective if you don't understand the weakness. The man laughed loudly as he was unaware of the small pieces of rubble flying by his body. Naruto, snapping his finger, instantly swapped places with Laxus and swung his sword in a downward arc. "Now I definitely know you're not my old man." Naruto yelled as right before he could make contact he snapped his fingers. The man, caught off guard, was expecting to either block the strike or see Laxus appear again with a new attack. Yet instead he only saw two rocks where both boys were standing. Making the man come to a realization for too late the moment he felt a sword slash his side and a lightning-coated fist smash against his jawline. "'Cause my dad wouldn't be dumb enough to fall for this." Naruto laughed loudly as he snapped his fingers again. The man, filled with rage and hatred at being compared as inferior to Minato Namikaze, quickly recovered and took an angry swing at Naruto. Yet within one snap Naruto was gone and the man felt a slice at his ankle. Another snap and he took a punch to the kidney. Two more snaps and he felt a strong punch to the stomach along with the searing jolt of a lightning attack against his backside. The man, stumbling forward, heard a fast succession of at least 3 to 4 more snaps. finding himself on the receiving end of several more punches, kicks, sword slashes and magical attacks. Yet this relentless onslaught never stopped as both Naruto and Laxus both kept in perfect sync with each other. "That's enough." The man yelled in a display of overwhelming rage as his blue eyes turned completely black and a dark aura of magic slowly radiated from his body, giving off a vile and putrid magical signature that caught both Naruto and Laxus off guard. Dark magic. Black hole. Naruto, frozen in place, watched as a small condensed black ball of magical energy formed between the man's hands. Then almost instantly his golden dome began to unravel itself and filtered into the man's spell, erasing Naruto's spell in seconds and leaving him and Laxus both in this fight without their advantage. "Did he just absorb your spell?" Laxus cried out to Naruto but didn't have time to get a response as the man held his hands and the orb outward. "Dark magic. Void." The man mumbled as the black sphere expanded at a speed that Naruto and Laxus couldn't react to, let alone escape as the magic engulfed both boys and left them surrounded in an overwhelming darkness. A darkness that cut off all their senses except for pain as both boys felt the most intense pain of their lives. Yet the severe pain only lasted for a few seconds as the spell quickly disappeared but Naruto and Laxus couldn't handle the backlash of pain. Since even though the spell only lasted a few seconds, to Naruto and Laxus it felt like a lifetime of pain which caused both boys to topple over and pass out from the shock. The emperor, who had merely watched the entire ordeal from the side, finally walked forward and looked at his subordinate with a neutral expression. The streets had been cleared long ago and now with Naruto and Laxus unconscious, they were the only two standing in what was an intense battleground only moments ago. "My emperor." The man began as he placed a hand over his heart and took a knee before the man. "My apologies for not ending this sooner than I should have." The emperor waved the man off and looked at Naruto and Laxus as the wrappings and clothing around their bodies were ripped apart from the battle, leaving their fairy tale guild marks on display for the man, which made him smirk. "Think nothing of it, Arashi." This was a very entertaining little display and surprisingly beneficial. The emperor mumbled with a pleased smile as he placed his arms behind his back. "Take them both to the dungeon for interrogation. I want to know why two fairy tale wizards are in my kingdom. Even more so, I want to know why Minato's son is here as well." Arashi nodded and stood to his feet. "Consider it done." A few hours later with Naruto. Slowly opening his eyes and groaning in pain, Naruto's vision adjusted to a dimly lit dungeon cell. Finding that he was alone and chained to the ceiling with his hands suspended over his head and his legs hovering over the floor below. Within the room he found a few lacrima-powered lights that illuminated the cell and table to his side. A table that held multiple tools that Naruto could only assume was for torture and interrogation. Yet one thing that did spark concern was that he couldn't find any sign of Laxus. "This isn't good." Naruto mumbled as he reached for his magic but instantly found he couldn't harness his power. In fact, as Naruto tried to utilize his magic, he saw a few runes glow in dark black lettering around his cell. "Powerful rune magic made especially for sealing my ability to use magic. That's just perfect." Pulling on the chains, Naruto found them to be quite sturdy and there was very little opportunity for him to break out of them. So simply swaying back and forth after rattling his chains, Naruto tried to think what he could possibly do next. Yet before he could even gather his thoughts, an eerie and familiar voice called out to him. "Well, look who is finally awake." Naruto, glaring through metal bars of his cell, locked eyes with a man with the appearance of his father, who was slightly bandaged from their earlier fight but overall seemed relatively fine. "Where is Laxus?" Naruto growled under his breath as he glared at the man. Lifting his finger into the air and shaking it at the younger wizard, the man smiled wide. "I don't think you grasp the severity of your situation. You're not in the position to be asking questions." The man opening Naruto's cell with ease showed the blonde it wasn't locked, displaying how confident that he wouldn't escape. "Like I give a shit, bastard." Naruto yelled back as he pulled on his chains but stopped the moment a strong punch hit his side. A blow that sent Naruto swaying from side to side and wheezing in pain. "So rude. Now I know you didn't get that from Minato. Must have been passed down from that whore mother of yours." The man sneered with satisfaction behind his voice. Spitting at the man, Naruto could only look at the man with hatred. "Go to hell, you!" The ghost of fairy tale began before he was silenced by a forceful punch to the stomach that hoisted him into the air. The man, removing his fist after holding Naruto into the air, merely cleaned the spit from his face as he watched Naruto bounce from the suspension of the chains. "Let's try being more civil, shall we?" The man began as a twisted smile graced his features. "Let's start with names. You said yours was Naruto when you mistakenly identified me as that traitor Minato. My name is Arashi Namikaze, your father's twin brother." Naruto's eyes went wide as everything finally clicked together for him. Realizing why Makarov was so against him coming to this nation, as he had to know that his father had ties to this nation. understanding why this man was so cruel to him and his mother, as his actual father would never disrespect his mother in that way. By your surprise, I'm only assuming Minato never told you about me or our family. Did he even tell you he was born right here in the Alvarez Empire? Considering first impressions. I'm glad he never did. Naruto replied as his anger and drive for resistance was far from gone. Odds you look just like me and your father at that age. Arashi began as he shook his head. But your personality screams and you called her Milkovich Namikaze. I don't recall that ever being your mother's maiden name. What are you talking about? Man, your parents really kept a lot from you, didn't they? Tell me you were so excited to see me earlier. How long has it been since you've even seen your father? Weeks? Months? Years? I'm not telling you shit. Definitely years. Arashi replied as he walked over to the table to the side of the cell. His attention away from Naruto as he looked over the various tools that were laid out. I would ask if searching for your father was the reason you were here, but that doesn't explain why a couple of wizards from Ishgar infiltrated our empire. So why are you here? Naruto remained silent as he knew he had to watch his words very cautiously, as he knew this was an interrogation and he desperately didn't want to slip up. So pulling up a facade of confidence, Naruto smirked. So you separated me and Laxus to interrogate us individually, huh? Probably trying to see if our stories match up right. Too bad for you that neither of us will break. Arashi looked over his shoulder with an emotionless gaze. There is no need to try and use any type of distraction or psychology on me, nephew. This is merely a formality to validate my own personal vendetta against your father and grandfather. Naruto, trying to keep his composure, laughed at Arashi's words. What, daddy didn't love you enough growing up? Well, my father did favor Minato at times during our youth, that's not the man I'm referring to. I'm talking about your grandfather on your mother's side. What? Arashi laughed at the boy's confusion. You know so little about your parents, it's actually sad. Listen, nephew, your little friend already told me everything. He told me about the others here with you along for why you're here. If you cooperate and your story matches up, I will tell you everything about your parents I know. Naruto was in complete disbelief at what he was told and his aura of confidence quickly vanished. Temptations of the truth involving his family instantly clouding his mind and judgment. Laxus told you everything. Maybe, but your words and body language confirms you two have others with you. Arashi replied with a vile grin as he grabbed a small sphere made of lacrima that held a ghastly black glow from his magic. Search all the beaches that face Ishgar for anyone out of place. Bring me at least one prisoner and kill any others. You bastard. Naruto roared in anger as he pulled on his chains and tried to get closer to the chuckling man. And that reaction confirms they were in fact on the beaches. Honestly, I'd say I'm disappointed in you, nephew, but I am the head of torture and investigation in the Alvarez Empire. You're quite outclassed here. Naruto's eyes went wide and he balled his fists. He knew what the man was doing, but he still allowed his emotions to get the better of him. Something that pissed Naruto off, as Arashi was just playing with his emotions with ease. Well, let's move on to the topic of you being here. Arashi began as he held a rod into the air and runes danced across the tool. His face held an expression of excitement as the tool grew red hot and began to hiss from the sudden change of heat. So tell me, nephew. Why are you here when you obviously know nothing about your family's past in these lands? Naruto gritted his teeth and weighed his options, as he had been completely outmaneuvered so far just from simple conversation. However, now it looked like things were about to get more painful and Naruto didn't know how much abuse he could handle. He was strong after all, but by no means invincible. Still, as Naruto thought over his next words, he knew one thing. Despite all his hardships and struggles in life, he was never one to give up. Something that he wasn't about to start today. Well, you see, I'm on holiday. Naruto replied as he instantly felt searing hot metal against his stomach, filling Naruto with a severe pain that made him tense his entire body. Removing the hot iron from Naruto's body, Arashi grinned ear to ear. That was more satisfying than I care to admit. By all means, keep lying to me. Have you heard the story about the successful wizard and his second-rate twin brother? Naruto asked as he instantly felt the hot iron hit his skin again, which made the blonde seethe in pain. Not a fan of it. By all means, keep this up. It makes breaking you all the more fun. Arashi replied as he ripped Naruto's shirt off, which left nothing on his upper torso besides the necklace around his neck. If I remember correctly, you Ishgar wizards take pride in your guild marks. So let's start here. Naruto tightened his fists and curled his toes at the burning pain he felt over his guild mark. If you think that will break me, try again. Arashi, removing the tool from Naruto's body, quickly punched the boy in the jaw before slamming the red-hot iron back and forth against Naruto's ribs, making Naruto sway from side to side, which did make the metal cuffs around his wrist that suspended him dig into his skin. Well, I do love a challenge. Naruto, feeling the beating pause for a moment, took a second to compose himself by taking a few deep breaths. wondering just how much longer he could keep this up. Yet to Naruto's horror and Arashi's interest, the necklace around Naruto's neck started to glow green. Now what do we have here? Arashi began as he snatched the necklace from Naruto's neck and held it into his free hand. A lacrima necklace with very small runes for communication. Oh nephew, who do you keep in contact with? Summoning every ounce of rage and strength in his body, Naruto jerked his arms downward. Using enough force to make the chains go tense and some rubble from the ceiling fall onto the ground. Give that back before I kill you. Oh now I'm very invested. Arashi began as he pushed his magic into the crystal and smiled at Naruto with a wicked sense of enjoyment. Hello there. Who is this? Where is Naruto? Came the instant concerned voice of one Lucy Heartfilia. Naruto, are you there? Arashi chuckled as he saw the fear behind Naruto's eyes. Oh, he's right here with me. His dear uncle Arashi, but he's far from okay. Arashi then took the hot iron in his hand and jabbed the tool into Naruto's chest, which made Naruto cry out in pain. Lucy for the first time in over a year heard the voice of her best friend. The person who she adored and missed more than anything, but the pain in his cries filled her with concern. Naruto, what's going on? Arashi chuckling removed the tool from Naruto's body and held the necklace in a taunting fashion right in front of Naruto. Well, I'm currently beating and torturing him for fun. The gasp from Lucy came through and Naruto's heart broke as he heard the girl he loved cry for him. Please stop. You see there, Naruto? That's called manners, you should learn a thing or two from this lovely young lady. Arashi began as he gave Naruto a slight wink. Tell me, sweetheart, what is your name and relationship to my beloved nephew? Don't tell him a thing. Naruto roared loudly as anger was slowly building behind his eyes. You hear me? Don't say anything to this bastard. Arashi, shaking his head, brought the hot metal against Naruto's skin once more. Making sure to hold the necklace very close to Naruto's mouth to ensure Lucy heard his cries of pain. Now don't listen to my rebellious little nephew. How about a deal? You start with telling me your name and we can work towards ending Naruto's pain. My name is… Stop. Naruto yelled with exhaustion as he glared at Arashi with nothing besides hatred behind his eyes. You win. I'll tell you anything you want. Just keep her out of this. Arashi tilted his head. I think we are past that point. So how about it, girl, what is your name? Lucy Heartfilia. Came the reply that made Naruto's heart sink. Lucy Heartfilia, huh? Now that's a beautiful name. Tell me, nephew, is she a beautiful young woman? Shaking in anger, Naruto had never felt so much anger in his entire life. I'm going to fucking kill you. Well, that doesn't answer my question. I'll just have to visit her myself. I hope you don't mind. Listen, I told you my name. So please let Naruto go. Arashi hummed and gave Naruto an eye smile. About that. I lied. Naruto, where are you? I can hire a wizard guild to come save you. Naruto balled his fists and gritted his teeth as the last thing he ever wanted was to involve Lucy in any sort of way. Lucy, there isn't anything you can do. Just forget about me and move on with your life. How noble. Arashi mumbled sarcastically as he rolled his eyes. Lucy's sobs coming through the lacrima, Naruto felt so much pain on the inside it was miserable. Please give Naruto back. I don't have anyone else left. Arashi grinned at Lucy's desperate plea and simply held the necklace up to Naruto's line of sight. Then with little effort he shattered the necklace and allowed it to drop onto the ground. Oops. Naruto, looking at the shattered remains of the one thing he had that tethered him to the person he loved, felt an overwhelming sense of hate within his body. I promise you this. Naruto began in a hollow voice as he gazed upwards with a look that was eerily void of any emotion. It might not be today or even tomorrow, but I will kill you. Arashi grinned. Been a while since someone gave me a look like that. Funny enough, it just happened to be your father too, but we are wasting time. I got a couple more hours of free time on my hands. With Laxus. Sitting cross-legged in the middle of a large cell, Laxus was a mix between being pissed and concerned. He was pissed due to his actions that led to the boy being left within a cell in a foreign country, while having nothing besides a dirty bucket as the only thing he had with him. Yet even more so, he was concerned for the people he had come on this mission with. Since he had no clue if Evergreen, Freed and Bixlo were okay and had not seen any trace of Naruto. To make matters worse, Laxus found his magic couldn't be utilized due to runes around the cell that cancelled out his magic. So escaping his confinement with his magic was definitely out of the question. Especially since the only thing Laxus could see was the steel bar door that sealed him off from the rest of the dungeon. However, as Laxus looked across his cell door, he could see another cell that mirrored his own. Yet the person within the other cell was an older male who appeared in his 60s, but it was hard for Laxus to judge due to his emaciated figure. The man did have long spiky white hair that went down his backside, but his long hair was definitely unkempt and lost a majority of its healthy appearance. Laxus also noticed that he was wearing what was once an elegant dark blue mantle with a matching undershirt and pants. However, time along with dirt and blood had left the man's once commanding attire to nothing more than dirty rags. Still, the most shocking display Laxus observed were the metal spikes that were impaled into the man's body in different non-lethal locations. Showing that whoever placed him within the situation wanted him to rot and suffer, but not die. "Are you alive over there, old man?" Laxus called out and waited in silence for a moment, but quickly realized either the man was ignoring him or was actually dead. "Move her with the other," came the sound of an unfamiliar voice that reached Laxus's ears. So slightly preparing himself as he heard the sound of footsteps, Laxus was shocked to his core to find Evergreen being dragged to his cell door by a few soldiers dressed in Alvarez uniforms. From first glance she looked pretty rough, but was definitely alive. "Evergreen?" Laxus cried out as he stood up, but froze the moment a guard held a knife to her exposed neck. "Stay back or she dies like the others." Laxus obeyed and remained still, but his mind was going a million miles a second. Trying to decipher what the man had meant by others. Was Naruto okay? What about Freed and Bixlow? Since Laxus didn't see any sign of his other fairy tale wizards. Making the lightning-scarred boy sick to his stomach as he thought of the possibilities. The soldiers opening the door wasted no time throwing Evergreen into the cell before locking the door and walking off. At this moment Laxus rushed to Evergreen's side and cradled the girl into his lap. "Evergreen, are you okay?" Laxus cried as he looked the beaten girl over and got a better assessment on her injuries. He was no healer himself, but even Laxus could tell she was in bad shape. Keeping her eyes closed, Evergreen groaned in pain. "Laxus. Is that you?" "Yes, it's me. What happened? Where is Freed and Bixlow?" Evergreen's lips quivering at the question, Laxus could only watch the tears leak out of her eyes, and his mind went to the worst possible scenario. "Please don't tell me they are," Laxus started, but even he found his voice hitching and couldn't finish his words. Evergreen, lifting her eyes open, strained to see Laxus without her glasses, but all the same she knew the boy was there and he could hear her. "I'm sorry, Laxus, we were ambushed and outmatched. Bixlow was the first to go. It happened so quickly. I was going to be next, but Freed." Laxus watched the girl pause and sob at speaking the boy's name. "You don't have to say any more." Evergreen shook her head. "No, I have to tell you how brave he was. When Freed was facing death he didn't run or show any fear. His last words were to escape and make sure you and Menma were safe." Tears falling out of his eyes for his friends, Laxus held tightly onto Evergreen. "I'm going to avenge them and we are going to survive this, Evergreen. I promise you." "I trust you, Laxus." Evergreen mumbled as she slowly nodded off into an unconscious state. Laxus, filled with so much grief and anger, could only sit in silence and fight the tears from escaping his eyes. He didn't know what to do next or how he was going to escape, but right now he knew one thing. He wanted nothing more than to be back at Fairy Tail with all his family. A desire he now knew would never be possible, as today was the day he had lost two friends he considered brothers. But Naruto. Beaten, slashed, burned, bruised and bleeding at an alarming rate, Naruto hardly had enough energy to stay conscious, let alone move. Yet as two soldiers held his arms and dragged him down a dark dungeon corridor, Naruto glared at the man leading the group. His father's twin and the man Naruto hated more than anyone else. The man who Naruto promised himself if he was to survive that he would kill him. That of course being Arashi Namikaze. "You're rather quite back there, nephew." Arashi chuckled in a happy tone while glancing over his shoulder. Then as a vile pair of blue eyes met another pair that was filled with nothing besides hatred, Arashi smiled. "Glad to see you're not broken yet." If Naruto had the energy he would have probably insulted or threatened the man, but at the moment he was fighting to just stay aware. Arashi, stopping his march at the front of his cell, merely smirked and held his hands behind his back. "Well, if it isn't my favorite prisoner. Look what I found." The vile man, turning to Naruto, motioned for the guards to move Naruto closer to the cell. "It's my brother's son." Naruto, peering through the cell, saw a man with long spiky white hair. A man whose body was impaled with metal spikes that looked more painful than anything Naruto had endured. A man who surprisingly lifted his head to lock eyes with Naruto. Son?" the man asked, and slightly impressed Naruto with how his tone sounded. Since he didn't sound weak or defeated but instead came across as strong and absolute. Arashi smirked at the man's question. "I believe he mentioned something about your whore daughter being his mother." The man laughed at the insult. "I'd kill you for those words, but I wouldn't rob the boy of that right." The chained man, moving his gaze to Naruto, felt a small sensation of pride at seeing the sea of rage and hatred that Naruto was directing at Arashi. "No need to question anything. That boy is strong and is definitely my grandson." Naruto's eyes went wide as he looked at the man with a whole new perspective. Considering he had never heard of his mother's side of his family, much like he had never heard of his father's side. Yet he could at least tell his grandfather was much different than his bastard uncle. "Well, a nephew. Meet your mother's father. The plague of Alvarez and the last of the resistance against our great emperor." Your grandfather, Madara-cha. Chapter end. Chapter 5. Destroy everything. Naruto locking eyes with his grandfather was a whirlwind of emotions, and the questions he wanted to ask practically seemed endless. Yet the condescending scoff of his uncle brought him back to the reality of his situation. Well, this is a lovely meeting, but I'm a busy man. Arashi explained as he opened the cell to Naruto's back. Then with little effort he grabbed the younger blonde by the arm and tossed him inside. Try not to die on me, nephew, and I'll try to visit more than your father does. Feeling the rough landing of his body hitting against a stone floor, Naruto hardly had the energy to move, let alone respond to the pain. Instead his eyes just followed Arashi as the man closed his cell and walked off. A hatred burning behind his eyes that was only extinguished the moment he heard a familiar voice. "Naruto?" came the concerned voice of Laxus, which made Naruto close his eyes and smile. Knowing at least one of his fellow fairy tale wizards was alive. What did that bastard do to you? Finding it hard to get the words he wanted to say out, Naruto pushed through the pain and slowly lifted his body up with his elbows. Then by slightly seething in pain he somehow managed to position himself into a sitting position. This of course took a slight toll on the young wizard and forced him to sit in silence for a moment to gather his composure. Yet as Naruto glanced to his side he saw Laxus looking at him with worry covering his face, while within his lap was Evergreen. A sight that made Naruto's eyes widen in both horror and a creeping sensation of dread at the lack of seeing both Bixlow and Freed. WWH. Naruto choked on his words from a mixture of physical pain and emotional guilt. Where are they? Laxus already knew who Naruto meant as the boy's eyes were locked onto Evergreen. They were both killed. Laxus revealed with anger hidden behind the sadness in his voice. Evergreen is in bad shape too. Not nearly as bad as you look, however. Physically I'm fine. Laxus hearing this was in disbelief as Naruto's face was a little bruised but overall not too bad. However, the blonde's entire upper torso and arms were covered in burns, slash marks and bruises. From Laxus's perspective it looked more like Naruto would fall over dead any minute now. You don't have to put up an act. That man is gone. It's just us. Trust me, Laxus. It's no act. My guilt hurts far worse than anything he did to me. What do you mean? Naruto gritted his teeth and hung his head. He tortured me and I messed up. He got me to slip up and reveal we had others with us. I'm the reason they were found. It's my fault Bixlow and Freed are dead. No. Laxus cut in sharply, which caught Naruto off guard. You were placed in an impossible situation. If anything, the blame for taking you four into this mission is my fault. We would all still be at Fairy Tail if I didn't convince you four to take this mission. Their deaths are on my hands and no one else. I'm still the one who caused all this in the first place. If I wouldn't have acted on emotion and showed myself we would have been fine. You don't know that. We could have been captured another way or even killed. I will never fault you for trying to speak with your father. Especially when I would have done something similar with my own father. I heard your old man had been excommunicated from the guild. Are you looking for him as well? Laxus scoffed. No, I'm talking about kicking his ass if I ever saw him, but that's not relevant at this point. Even talking about who is to blame isn't important. Right now we need to be focused on escaping this nightmare alive. If that's even possible. Naruto countered with a bitter tone. They've managed to seal off our ability to use magic with runes covering these cells. Not to mention we have no information as to where we are or any current methods to get back home to Ishkur. Well. Laxus began as he looked to the cell across from their own. He might be able to help. Naruto looking back to where his grandfather was simply saw the man watching him with a quiet gaze. Almost as if he was making observations and assessments on Naruto's ability to handle his situation. Yet Naruto himself was analyzing the man who he had hardly known. Making a few quick assumptions as he looked over his grandfather's cell, which was far different from his own. Considering for starters, Naruto could quickly tell the runes that were drawn onto Madara's cell had been cleared for quite some time. If he even wants to help. Naruto countered in response. Madara smirked at Naruto's words. And what makes you say that, child? Pointing to a few different spots on Madara's cell, Naruto began to speak softly. The runes around your cell aren't active. I can tell it from first glance and I'm almost certain my uncle is aware. Meaning you have the ability to utilize magic, but yet you're still captive. So there has to be an underlying reason for that. How observant. Madara replied with a low chuckle as he held his chains up for Naruto to see. However, as you can see I'm not going anywhere with these chain bindings or the spike stabbing into my body. And yet something tells me you could escape any moment if you wanted. You'd be correct. I've actually escaped a few dozen times over the years. And yet you're still locked away. Naruto began as he narrowed his gaze at his grandfather. Why is that? Madara's eyes spinning into a pinwheel, Naruto felt the man's strange eyes pierce into his very senses. Then within seconds the world around Naruto began to distort and melt into an empty white void. Leaving no one or anything around for Naruto to see. In fact for Naruto he oddly enough felt the absence of his physical pain, which made Naruto question just what was currently going on. What the hell is this place? Naruto grumbled softly as he bent down and tapped the ground. Discovering that he was standing on some sort of hard reflective surface. It's more or less an illusion I'm fabricating within your mind. Madara spoke up from behind, which made Naruto instantly spin on his heels. Finding the figure of his grandfather standing with his arms crossed. However, the man looked nearly 30 years younger and within his prime. Considering his previous silver hair was now a strong black that was reminiscent of Ur's hair color and his aged wrinkles were gone. Even his build seemed more in line with a man in his physical prime in comparison to his normal elderly body. I'm not a fan of outsiders and I wish to speak with you in private. My eye magic just so happens to have a spell that allows that to happen. Its normal application is a little more dangerous, but it can be used for more mundane purposes. Naruto nodded and remained calm. Well, I wish to speak to you as well. Then we will talk. Madara began as he held a hand outward. I can only assume my daughter never told you of me. Mom or dad never talked about any of my family. Hell, until today I thought mom's last name was Milkovich. Madara let a small sigh escape his lips. My wife's maiden name. I made her take the name when she and your father left for Ishkur. Didn't want anyone capturing my daughter to slow me down. Tell me. What became of my daughter? Well, I grew up with mom and dad in an isolated part of Ishkur with my older sister Altair. It wasn't until I grew older that I realized we lived such a life because we were in hiding. Naruto explained in a dry voice as old memories started to resurface. My older sister died a few years ago from a magical disease. Then shortly after Altair died, mom ended up using a forbidden ice make spell to turn her body into ice so she could seal a demon created by Zeref. Naruto seeing the anger flare up from his grandfather's face was slightly taken back in surprise as it looked like the man was ready to kill someone. Like I needed any more reason to hate that fucking bastard. Madara growled in anger, which made Naruto lift his brow. What do you mean? Zeref, or as the people in this kingdom call him. Emperor Spriggan. Madara explained to Naruto's complete and utter disbelief. Wait, you're saying Zeref is alive? The dark wizard from over 400 years ago? Unfortunately, yes. Trust me, I've been trying to kill that monster for decades, but have failed time after time. He's an immortal and just as powerful as his legends describe. Still, before I go on. What happened after Ur's passing? Who raised you and why are you here? Well, dad left me with a family friend and I haven't seen him in years. All I knew was that he was working some sort of dangerous mission. Eventually some events happened and I joined a guild called Fairy Tail. I was then given a mission to infiltrate Alvarez and that led me here. I saw a man who I thought was my old man but was actually the uncle I didn't know of. And that leads us to right now. Naruto nodded. Correct, but tell me. Who exactly are my parents? I know nothing about their past or anything. Madara glanced to the side and within a shimmer of mist, Naruto saw a version of his mother around his own age. Sweeping Naruto with a wave of familiarity as his mother looked almost identical to his older sister Altair. Our family comes from a nation called Konoha, which wasn't too far away from the Alvarez Empire. For decades our people fought for our freedom against Zeref's expansions. Over the years many of our people died and others surrendered themselves over to the Empire in order to survive. In a twist of fate my closest friend and leader of Konoha died in battle against Zeref and I overtook the mantle of leader. Naruto watched as another figure manifested besides his mother, but this figure was that of his father Minato at a young age. There were countless battles and bloodshed, and even children like your mother were forced to fight. It was a bloody war that eventually sparked the meeting between your mother and father. Of course they met as enemies. The child of Konoha's leader and Minato the son of Alvarez's strongest wizard August. But they obviously didn't stay enemies. Naruto pointed out. Obviously, you're testament to that. Madara replied in a blunt tone. A situation transpired between your parents on the battlefield and the results of that situation brought them close together. It made your father see that Alvarez was in the wrong and he wanted to help our people. But they didn't help, did they? After all, both mom and dad took off for Ishkur. That was on my demands. Madara explained with a heavy tone of what Naruto could only recognize as sadness under his voice. Konoha eventually fell and those who did not surrender were either imprisoned or killed. I myself have only been spared as a message to those who were alive and wished to rebel. An example that there was no winning against the Alvarez Empire. Yet before my capture I made your father promise me two things. Which were? That he would escape to Ishkur with making sure he kept my daughter safe and that he would find a way to kill Zeref. However, I now see he failed to keep her safe and Zeref still breathes. That must be what dad is doing on his mission. Naruto mumbled as the pieces started to click together for him. He's out searching for a way to kill Zeref. Regardless where your father is now, it doesn't help your current situation. Madara began as the figures of Naruto's parents vanished from view. However, that does not mean you're helpless. I take it you have a solution. I do, but trust me when I say it won't be an easy solution. Naruto narrowed his vision onto his grandfather. Will I be able to save my friends? You will. Then I don't care what needs to be done. I'll do whatever you say. Madara smirked and pointed to his eyes, drawing Naruto's attention to Madara's blood-redder eyes with black pinwheel designs in each eye. This is our family's magic that has been passed down through generations. Regrettably, your mother was never able to learn this magic as she was more inclined to my wife's ice-based magic. This particular eye magic is called the Sharingan and I'm going to teach you how to use it. Well, I could never pick up ice magic from mom when she tried to show me. That's perfectly fine. In fact, it only increases the chances you'll be able to master the Sharingan and hopefully get enough practice to master its Mankum form. Naruto frowned and arched his brow. And how exactly am I going to learn this eye magic and master it within my current situation? Madara sighed. An ideal situation would be for me to escape with you and train you myself. Unfortunately, I'm not the man I used to be. Time and years of torment have left my physical body with little use. Still, there is a way to teach you the Sharingan. That is to use the spell Tsukiyomi in order to practice and learn the Sharingan. And what is that exactly? You're already in it. Tsukiyomi is an advanced spell utilized by the Mankum Sharingan that conjures an extremely powerful illusion that distorts the victim's perception of time. Right now you could experience days within this space while only minutes transpire outside of the illusion. So you plan to utilize this Tsukiyomi in order to teach me months worth of training in a small span of time. Correct. This won't help train you physically, but will give you the time to master our family's ability. It's better than nothing. So let's get started. Madara nodded. I should warn you. Despite me not using Tsukiyomi for its intended purpose, it will still take a large strain on you mentally. Then I'm more than confident that the bastard isn't done with your torment. So you'll also be in store for more physical pain as well. This will not be an easy process. If this Sharingan can't save my friends and make me stronger, I don't care what the price is. I'll take any pain necessary to make sure my bastard uncle gets nowhere near Lucy. You sound like Minato. Madara replied as he closed his eyes and sighed. He spoke very similar words about your mother all those years ago. However, regardless of who this Lucy girl is, I'm going to give you the same stipulation for my help. You want me to kill Zeref? Naruto asked, which made Madara's eyes snap open and a dangerous smirk dance across his face. You're also smart like your father, but I want more than just the death of Zeref. I want you to destroy everything. Escape. Grow stronger. Then burn this fucking empire to ash. Be the one to avenge our family and people. Be their weapon from the afterlife that can finally bring justice to our fallen and bring judgment onto those who betrayed them. Weapon from the afterlife. Naruto mumbled with a light chuckle. I am known as the ghost of fairy tale. So that does seem somewhat fitting. Well, in that case, I Madara Uchiha, last Hokage of Konoha, declare you as the ghost of the Uchiha and the one destined to avenge our people. I won't let you down. Naruto replied softly. In that case, let's waste no more time. 2 days later. Swinging back and forth with his arms chained high above his head, Naruto felt the force of each fist that cracked into his ribsage. Yet despite the overwhelming pain moving throughout his body and the splitting mental pain from training with his grandfather, Naruto kept his emotions in check and did not display his misery for his captor. So nephew, I've been thinking these last few days. Arashi laughed loudly as he stopped his assault for only a moment. You've turned out just as stubborn as that grandfather of yours. I really think it's time we change our approach. Naruto kept completely still and only glared at the man who he hated more than anyone else with an emotionless gaze. I could torture or kill your friends, but I've already killed half of them. So that obviously won't work. Arashi began as he walked over to his table of tools and began scanning over his various methods of torture. But I think we both know what really gets under your skin. Curling his toes and pressing his teeth together, Naruto fought every urge within himself to respond. However, Naruto was aware that was exactly what Arashi wanted and he wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Though at the same time Naruto knew he couldn't hold his tongue much longer. What was her stupid little name again? Lucky. No, that's not right. Lacey. That seems closer. Arashi began as he took a pair of black gauntlets off his table and slowly placed each one onto his hands. Then as blue runes danced across the gauntlet surface, Naruto felt his stomach turn as the gauntlet sparked with blue electricity. Help me out here, nephew. I would hate to meet the girl and not know her name. Fuck off. Naruto finally snapped back, which made Arashi toss his hands up and roll his eyes. There is that rude behavior again. I swear it's like your parents never taught you anything. Arashi then took a pause and a wicked smirk flashed across his face. Oh wait, that's right. I almost forgot they left you without so much as telling you about your dear uncle. Such pathetic parents, nothing like me. I could understand why. Dad was probably embarrassed to be related to such an embarrassment of a Naruto began before he was silenced by an electrified palm pressing into his chest. Now. Don't get off topic nephew. We were talking about that little whore you care so much for. Arashi began before stepping away from Naruto and snapping his fingers. That's it. Her name was Lucy. It finally clicked. Why didn't I remember it sooner? You're just like Minato. Always drawn to useless whores. You're going to eat those words. Naruto growled in anger. Arashi rolled his eyes. You know I think the best way to correct your rude behavior is to bring someone here to teach you. That Lucy girl seemed well-mannered. Maybe I should bring her here to show you how to respect your elders. If you go anywhere near her. You'll what? Arashi quickly replied as he punched Naruto in the stomach. Yell at me some more. You're a weak child who can't do anything. His vision blurring, Naruto tried to keep his focus on Arashi's distorted figure. And you're a sad excuse for a man. Angry at his brother and can't do anything so you take it out on his son. Arashi grabbed Naruto by the chin and placed a tight squeeze onto the younger wizard. I'm going to bring you that girl's head. I promise you that nephew. Naruto filled with so much anger and hate wanted to retaliate but as he felt a hard fist placed into his gut. The ghost of Fairy Tail slipped into unconsciousness. 3 days later. Sitting with his back against the stone wall of his cell, Naruto took small breaths to compose himself. Currently his body ached from his wounds, but even worse was his mind. In the last 3 days Naruto and Madara had been using the Tsukiyomi technique rather excessively for Naruto to learn and practice with his grandfather, which was proving to be rather beneficial. Considering Naruto had taken to the training rather quickly and was excelling at a remarkable pace. However, that didn't mean he was immune to the drawbacks of such intense and rigorous training. Naruto. The voice of Laxus called out from the side, which made the younger blonde glance to the side. I understand you're working to get us out of here, but you're killing yourself. You need to slow down. I'll be fine. Naruto replied stubbornly as he moved his gaze away from Laxus and closed his eyes. There is too much at stake. I can't afford to slow down. Naruto listened to Laxus. Evergreen whispered softly as the blonde could hear the pain in her voice. My leg is broken and you're in worse shape than I am. We can't get back home if we can't even walk out of this dungeon. Exactly. At least let me take some of that man's torture. You've been shouldering all this alone. Laxus added in with concern all over his voice. Arashi only wants to torture me simply because I'm my father's son. So save your breath and recover. And when will you take a moment to recover? Snapping his eyes to Laxus and Evergreen, Naruto locked eyes with the two fairy tail wizards. His eyes held a burning passion and determination that sent chills down their spines. He crossed a line when he brought her into this. Naruto explained with as little details as possible before staggering up to his feet and slamming his hands and body against the cell door. So until I know she is safe I don't care what happens to me. At least let me help. Laxus called out from behind. I won't watch a friend kill himself for others. Naruto, slightly smiling at being called a friend by Laxus, merely looked over his shoulder. Trust me Laxus, I don't plan on dying anytime soon. Just trust me on this. I don't like this. Laxus replied in a frustrated voice. You don't have to, but I promise you'll be getting scolded by the master before you know it. Naruto then looked over to his grandfather who was watching him in silence. I'm ready to keep going old man. Madara, grinning like the devil, merely nodded and his Sharingan spun to life for everyone to see. You just keep impressing me. Even if you're my own flesh and blood. You've earned my respect and I don't give that out much. Naruto, feeling the effects of the Tsukiyomi, could see his surroundings slowly changing and kept a steady resolve. Just wait and see what I do when I'm free. 6 days later. Huffing in exhaustion and collapsing onto his hands and knees, Naruto felt the sweat pour down his face and watched as small droplets hit the stone floor under him. It had been 11 days since his capture and torture began, but within the Tsukiyomi Naruto had been training with Madara for months now. You okay? The voice of Laxus asked as Naruto felt the older wizard's hand on his backside. Naruto's head swirling with pain, felt slightly dizzy and was trying his hardest to gather his composure. Considering the room felt like it was spinning and he could hardly hear his own thoughts. He's fine. The rough and commanding voice of Madara spoke from the other cell with the slightest hint of pride in his tone. Laxus, snapping his eyes upwards, glared at Madara. You call this fine? He can hardly stand. I don't know what you've been doing, but this needs to stop. Madara scoffed and rolled his eyes. There is no need to stop. He's already finished. The elder Uchiha began before black flames burst out of his eyes and slammed into the runes surrounding Naruto's cell. He's got a natural talent that may surpass my own. The runes that were sealing away Naruto's magic slowly burning into nothing instantly filled everyone with the sensation of their magic returning into their bodies. Laxus himself held one hand out and watched as lightning magic sparked around his palm. "Wait, are we making an escape?" Laxus asked in confusion. Naruto, feeling his magic once more, simply closed his eyes and did just as he had practiced for months. Opening his eyes to reveal 2 red eyes with 3 black tomo in each eye. Yet within seconds those tomo began to swirl together and form lines within Naruto's eyes that quickly took the shape of a lotus flower design. "We are," Naruto replied as he looked at Laxus with his new Mankum Sharingan that slightly sent chills down the older wizard's spine. "I need you to carry Evergreen. I'll do the rest." "Can you even stand?" Laxus replied. "I'll be fine. Just trust me and get Evergreen," Naruto ordered in a stern voice, which made Laxus nod. "Fine, I'll trust you." Naruto, staggering to his feet, stood before the metal bars of his cell with a calm expression before a golden aura engulfed his body. Then as a golden skeleton ribcage with 2 arms surrounded his body, Naruto simply watched as the golden arms pulled the bars apart to allow passage. "What in the world?" Evergreen mumbled as she watched Naruto step out of the cell and stand before his grandfather. "We are not talking about a plan." Laxus grumbled as he pulled Evergreen into his arms. "Grandson, you remember what to do?" Madara asked while his voice held a large amount of pride behind it. Naruto nodded. "I'll follow your escape instructions and keep my promise." "Good. In that case, take this." Madara began before a sword shimmered out of his re-equip space and directly into Naruto's hands. "That's Ode no Shirayuki. Your grandmother's sword. It's a special blade that's more precious to me than anything I have left. Take it as not only a replacement for the sword you lost, but the blade you'll use to keep our promise." Naruto, running his hands along the sheathed blade, was at a loss for words. "Thank you." Madara chuckled. "Don't go thanking me. Ode no Shirayuki is a very picky blade. I even struggle to use her properly." Naruto lifted his brow. "What do you mean by picky?" Madara laughed and kept his hand held outward. "You'll figure it out soon enough, but as my final parting gift. Take all the magic I have left. I surely won't have any use for it." Watching with shock as a blue outline of magical power expelled out of Madara's body and covered Naruto's own. The younger of the two could only watch as what little life Madara had left slowly disappeared from his eyes. Leaving Naruto with a wave of sadness, knowing his grandfather was sacrificing what small life-force he had left to ensure Naruto's escape. Something that was evident by the surge of magic and strength that Naruto felt moving all throughout his body. Still, for almost a second, Naruto swore he could hear his grandfather's voice move through the wind. Telling the blonde only one simple thing. Destroy everything. Outside of the castle dungeon. Seated at a small table was a group of 3 Alvarez guards who were all fully dressed in their official Empire armor. Yet with their relaxed posture and drinks and cards spread throughout the table around them, they obviously had no worries despite being on guard duty for the castle's dungeon. However, as the trio laughed and joked, a single individual made their approach in silence. "Now what is going on here?" a voice called out as all 3 guards went stiff as a board and stood upright. "Lieutenant Haruno." The 3 guards yelled as they saluted the man dressed in an officer uniform. "Glad to see you're back, sir. I leave for 2 weeks and come back to you 3 goofing off. Makes me feel like I can't take any personal time." "We are sorry, sir." Smirking and folding his arms, the commanding officer simply laughed. "For starters, I've told you just call me Kizashi. Secondly, don't try and act all formal now. Pour me a drink and tell me what I've missed." The 3 guards, all cheering their commanding officer, simply offered the man a chair. "Well, you won't believe this, but we got some new prisoners." Kizashi rolled his eyes. "Great, are there more drunks or thieves this time?" "Even better. The grandson of Madara Che." Kizashi's blood ran cold and the color of his face went completely white. "That monster has a grandchild." One of the guards nodded. "Sure does. Lord Arashi has taken extreme interest in the kid too. Your family was originally from Konoha, right? Did you know Madara?" Kizashi shook his head. "Not personally. My family turned our back on Konoha and went to the Empire like so many others. All I know of Madara is what you all have heard. However, I did see the man once in battle before fleeing with my family. He was, for a lack of words, terrifying. Well, now he's nothing besides a pathetic old man. A relic of the past." Kizashi nodded. "Yes, I'm glad for it. That man only brought bloodshed. Without him my girls can grow up and live a safe life." "Oh, that's right. You and your wife adopted a second child. Another girl, right?" Kizashi was about to respond but froze the moment the door to the dungeon burst off its hinges and slid down the hallway. Making the man and his 3 subordinates jump up and look at the open doorway with a single individual looking directly at them. finding Naruto standing with his back slightly arched and his new sword firmly held within his hands. Yet looking at Naruto sent Kizashi into a state of fear, and it wasn't due to the burns and scars that covered the boy's body. Instead it was his emotionless and dead eyes, which were glowing brightly with his Mankum Sharingan. Igniting a fear within Kizashi that he tried desperately to forget, but as he looked at Naruto all he could see was a vestige of Madara Uchiha shadowing the young wizard. Making Kizashi instantly know that this was the grandson of Madara he was told about. So knowing his duty to his empire, Kizashi dashed to the side and struck a fighting stance. A glow of green magical energy encasing his body as he prepared himself to stop Naruto. Since being a child or not, Kizashi was willing to stop him for the sake of his own family. You have the same evil eyes as Madara. Why couldn't your family just disappear? Kizashi yelled in anger as he prepared to fight the child before him. Your grandfather was too stubborn to join the empire like the rest of us and got countless killed. I'm ending your putrid bloodline right. The three guards all looked at their commanding office with disbelief as Naruto had vanished from view and the top of Kizashi's head had been sliced clean in half from the nose up, resulting in the father of two and former citizen of Konoha falling dead onto the ground before he knew what happened. Naruto standing several feet behind Kizashi merely looked at the blood dripping off his grandmother's sword and took a deep breath. Alright Gramps, let's get started. You bastard. A guard yelled before Naruto instantly snapped his gaze to the side. Then within seconds all three were blasted with an inferno of black flames. Making the three men all cry and scream in pain, trying everything from rolling onto the ground to pouring water on themselves. Yet nothing they could do would stop Naruto's flames that slowly burnt them to ash. Laxus watching Naruto brutally murder four guards within seconds, merely remained slightly at the dungeon's door with Evergreen held tightly in his arms. Asking himself if that person standing before him was actually the same boy he had set out on this quest with. Follow close Laxus. Naruto ordered as he started to walk forward. We need to make it to the courtyard facing Ishkur. Throne room. Perched upon his throne with a bored expression, Zeref looked at the scene playing out before him on a lacrima screen. The scene in question was that of Naruto making his way through his castle while killing any guard who dared get within his way. I'm sorry for this, my emperor. The voice of August began as he bowed before the powerful wizard. I should have taken care of this boy the moment I learned of him. Leaving him to Arashi was my fault. Clicking his teeth at his father's words, Arashi took a bow of his own. In that case let me end the problem once and for all. Zeref chuckled and held his hand up. No, let the boy go. He may even pull his father out of hiding, but sent Squad 14 to intercept him. I'd at least like to see him earn his freedom. August nodded. It shall be done. With Naruto. Dashing forward and slashing at a guard, Naruto easily sliced the man at his elbows before leaping upwards. The guard shrieking in pain was quickly silenced by Naruto slashing his head clean off. Followed by Naruto twisting his torso and kicking another guard in the neck, which made the man's neck jerk with a snap and his body go limp. Naruto quickly landing on his feet looked around the hallway he was currently in with rapid precision, as his new eyes could be seen moving in every direction and tracking every single movement around him. Making a snapshot decision by lowering his torso and gliding forward. Naruto maneuvered his blade against another guard's leg before slicing the appendage clean off. Followed by a golden spectral arm manifesting off of Naruto's body and crushing another guard into a wall. Then by spinning on his heel and thrusting his sword into another guard's jugular, Naruto wasted no time watching the man die and simply kept moving. Since as he moved through the castle he was starting to leave a large trail of either mutilated or incinerated corpses. Laxus of course kept up with Naruto and stayed close behind, while never once even coming close to being touched by their enemies. Yet even though Laxus knew what Naruto had to do in order for their safety, the smell of burnt bodies and the sounds of guards dying were more than unsettling. We are almost there. Naruto yelled back as he could see an open courtyard in the distance. Moving even faster than before and took a surprising distance from both Laxus and Evergreen. I'm going to scout ahead. Laxus watching Naruto come out into an open courtyard followed the blonde but froze the instant he saw two giant hands clamp around Naruto's body. Causing the boy to disappear like a bug being squashed without a second thought. No. Evergreen gasped in worry while Laxus followed the extended arms of the man who attacked Naruto. Finding three men standing across the courtyard. Great work Shimza. A man with pure wide eyes complimented with excitement. There are still two more. The third man with dark sunglasses and bugs swarming around his body pointed out. We should take them out quickly. The man who attacked Naruto, seeming to struggle, let out a grunt. Hold on. Hizashi. Shibi. He's still alive. Both men were shocked, but not as much as Laxus, as they all looked at the giant hands that were being pushed open by a golden magical skeleton that protected Naruto's body. I can't hold him much longer. Kill him. Chimza cried in distress. Hisashi, running forward, quickly cleared the space between himself and Naruto, while a massive cluster of insects descended down onto Naruto from above. Yet Naruto merely broke free from the giant hands and dashed forward to meet Hisashi in an exchange of magically charged hand strikes and sword swings. Discovering rather quickly that his opponent was an expert in hand-to-hand combat and was able to easily deflect Naruto's lethal sword attacks while even striking Naruto's Susanoo armor. Sometimes that made Naruto glad his new eyes gave him protection against, as he could easily tell each fist the man tried to land was meant with the intentions to kill. Then there was the issue of the rapidly approaching insects, which Naruto was about to burn with his black flames. Yet as a bolt of lightning electrocuted the bugs into a dead pile, Naruto simply saw Laxus out of the corner of his eye. He was still holding Evergreen, but was still able to support Naruto with his free hand. Go for the other two. Hisashi ordered as he kept exchanging strikes with Naruto in close quarters. I have this one distracted. Naruto, hearing this, snapped and shot flames directly out of his eyes and engulfed Hisashi in a surprise burning inferno. Then by leaving the man to burn, Naruto ran around the man and directly for the other two within the courtyard. Instantly jumping upwards to avoid a massive fist aimed for his body, but as Naruto hovered over Chimza's wrist, he quickly severed the man's right fist off with a clean slice. Damn it. Chimza cried as he retracted his arm and brought his new bleeding stub close to his chest. You're gonna paw. Shinobi could only look at his friend in disbelief as a sword was currently stabbed directly into his throat. Then within a flash all Shinobi saw was Naruto move before everything went black and his head went flying into the air. Naruto himself merely stood in silence as the three men lay dead around the surrounding courtyard. A sigh escaped his lips as he knew this nightmare was almost over. Come on Laxus. It's time to go. Laxus, filled with adrenaline, stepped forward but froze at the sound of a hauntingly familiar voice. Leaving so soon? Naruto, looking to the side, saw the figure of his uncle Arashi, but Naruto wasn't concerned in the slightest. I can tell with these eyes you're a thought projection. So what do you want? I see your grandfather taught you a new trick. You've also in his spirit left quite the trail of bodies and killed a lot of loyal servants of Alvarez. Those people were sons, daughters and parents. Taking his grandmother's sword into its sheath, Naruto kept an emotionless expression. And? Arashi scoffed and placed his hands onto his hip. Talk about being ruthless. Do you even have a heart? No. Naruto replied in a blunt voice as a large skeleton torso started to take shape around his body. You threatened the person who has mine. The grin spread across Arashi's face. Then why don't you come after me too? The skeleton, growing armor and legs, quickly took the shape of a towering golden samurai with Naruto floating directly in the center of its torso. Then as the samurai grew two golden angelic wings, Naruto locked eyes with his uncle as his towering Susanoo was in its complete form. I will kill you, but not today. Naruto replied as he brought a hand down for Laxus and Evergreen to stand on. Taking the two wizards close to the chest of the massive samurai, conjured from his Mankum Sharingan before instantly shooting into the sky in flight and traveling back towards Ishikar. Laxus, feeling the wind blast against his face, could only look at the shrinking capital of Alvarez with wide eyes. Naruto, what is this? My Susanoo? It's a technique that comes from my new ability my grandfather taught me. With this we should have a straight shot back home. So we did it? Evergreen asked with tears in her eyes. Closing his eyes, Naruto nodded. Yeah, we survived that nightmare, but I have a request for the both of you. Please don't tell anyone besides the master about this quest, and please don't let anyone know my real identity. Laxus merely nodded. I can respect those wishes. No explanation needed. Same here. Evergreen added. Naruto sighed. Thank you. I should be able to drop you both off at the guild in a few hours. Laxus lifted his brow. What do you mean drop us off? What are you doing? I'm not running off. I'll fully accept the master's punishment when I return, but there is someone I have to see before that. I see. I'll explain the situation to the old man for you. Thank you. With Lucy. Sitting at her bedside with bloodshot watery eyes and unkempt hair, Lucy merely gazed at the necklace within her hands with a sickness like no other. Trying everything she could think of to either find Naruto or at the very least get someone's help. Yet she quickly learned her father didn't care and her celestial spirits couldn't do anything. So feeling helpless and alone, Lucy was at a complete loss as tears slowly rolled down her cheeks. I wish Mom was here. Lucy mumbled softly as she felt a breeze brush against her skin. She always knew what to do. She really did, didn't she? Came the reply of a voice Lucy recognized without question. Snapping her head to the side of her room. Lucy looked at her massive window, which was left open and currently held one familiar blonde who was merely sitting on the window's edge. Yet his gaze was kept in the direction of the mansion's courtyard where Lucy knew her mother's grave rested. I don't think a day goes by where I don't miss her. Naruto began softly with the slightest hint of regret under his breath. Her headstone is beautiful. It's very fitting for someone like Layla. And Naruto? Lucy gasped in disbelief, which caused the boy in question to turn his head towards her. Hey, lunacy. Lucy, not speaking a word or asking a question, wasted no time throwing herself across the bedroom and latching onto her fellow blonde tightly. Naruto, slightly staggering backwards, had to brace himself to stay perched on the window and not fall to the ground below. Easy there, lunacy. I can't tell if you're happy to see me or you're trying to shove me out the window. Lucy, pulling Naruto into an even tighter embrace, could only cry tears of joy. You're actually real. I'm not making this up. Naruto smiled and placed a hand through Lucy's messy hair. I'm sorry if I worried you. What happened? Lucy asked in response. I took a mission that went bad. A mission? Yeah, I'm in a guild now. Fairy Tail to be exact. Lucy backed away and looked at Naruto with wide eyes. You actually joined. Like your dad. Yeah, I did, but I also ran into my dad's past. More specifically, my uncle. I hurt him. He was hurting you. Lucy began as she finally saw Naruto's arms in the moonlight. Arms that were covered in burns and fresh cuts that would obviously scar. His threats hurt more than anything else. Naruto admitted, but Lucy wouldn't hear anything. Since she quickly pulled Naruto's shirt up to reveal even more burns and wounds. He did this to you? Naruto was slightly taken back by the anger in Lucy's words, but as Naruto placed his hands over her own, Naruto could see the anger slightly vanishing. Like I said. Nothing he did really hurt me. Only when he threatened you was I really in pain. He even took my necklace and broke it right in front of me. Lucy, seeing the absence of his matching necklace, simply shook her head. That's okay. You're back and safe. That's all I need. Naruto slightly frowned and looked to the ground. So much has happened, Lucy. I met my grandfather. Learned where my parents are from and now have somewhat of an idea where my father is now. Yet despite all of that, I've taken a path that's turned me into a killer. Grabbing Naruto's hands and squeezing tightly, Naruto was surprised to see the young girl's fury directed at him. You're not a killer. Aquarius showed me everything that happened that day. I know the truth. That's not what I'm talking about, Lucy. I had to take countless lives to get back to you. I killed so many people to escape and reach you, and the sad thing is I don't even regret doing so. I'd do all of it again just to see you safe. Well, we can push all of that behind us. We can move on together. Naruto smiled and cupped Lucy's cheek. I've missed you so much. You're my first thought every morning, you're my last before I fall asleep, and you're almost every thought in between. Lucy blushed a deep shade of red and a smile of her own came to life. The more time we share apart, the more clearly I see that I love you, Lucy, and I would do anything for you. Naruto began softly. Yet at the same time I'm exactly like my father. He was someone who tried to balance the love he had for my mother and fight a near impossible battle at the same time. I now realize the toll my father's actions had on my mom and don't want that life for you. Naruto, what are you talking about? I've placed runes around this mansion for miles. If my uncle so much as takes a sneeze in this direction, I will know. So you'll always be safe. Naruto, are you leaving me again? Lucy cried out as she was desperately trying to figure out the boy's words. However, as his eyes transformed into his Mankum Sharingan, Lucy's own eyes went wide. I wish more than anything you could forget me and move on with life as if we had never met. I even asked my grandfather if there was a way to erase someone's memories. His answer wasn't what I was looking for. Well, I don't want to forget you. You're all I have left. Naruto's heart slightly broke at her tone. I'll always be around and watching. I'm too selfish just to let you go. Still, it's impossible to erase someone's memory and take away years worth of experience, but you can hide away small pieces. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take every memory from the last few weeks about me and hide it away. That way you can continue on with life and I can fully disappear. For you it will be just the way things were before you found out about my capture. No, don't. Please don't do this. I have to, Lucy. Hearing my uncle threatening to take your life left me with so much fear. I would rather take 1,000 years of torture than watch something bad happen to you. But we are safe here. Naruto, placing his hands around Lucy's arms, gave the girl a small squeeze. I'm taking a path filled with danger that I don't want you following. I'm not making the same mistakes as my father. I will not lose you. I don't care. Take whatever path you want. I will follow. I love you too, Naruto. Even if my heart stops or my mind forgets, my soul will always pull me right back to you. And that's what I'm afraid of. Naruto mumbled as he gritted his teeth in anticipation for what he was about to do. Please stay with me or take me with you. Naruto, leaning forward, kissed the top of Lucy's forehead. I can't. The ghost of Fairy Tail began as he pulled back from Lucy. His eyes fully gazed into her own, which caused the girl to slightly zone out and sway back and forth. Naruto, catching the girl he loved before she could hit the ground, simply walked forward and cradled her in his arms. taking extra care to place her into her bed safely while his eyes lingered to the set of golden keys on her nightstand. "I know you all are watching." Naruto spoke to the celestial spirits in a low voice. "Please don't bring the memories of these last few weeks back to her. It's too dangerous to be around me and I know you want her safe, but if danger does come around for Lucy, then come find me. I'll protect her no matter the cost." But saying his piece and giving Lucy one final look, Naruto vanished in a flicker of golden light. Chapter end. What if neglected Naruto hates his mother? Fairy tale end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.